All right, we are green. We are live, brothers and sisters, bastions of freedom. It has been an all-nighter. It's been a long night. I've been up all night listening to Democrats whine about the fact that they're getting their teeth kicked in on this reconciliation bill. But that is not the important piece to this, because the reconciliation bill has a suppressor amendment built into it. There's a lot of things going on right now. I'm going to walk you through the entire thing. I've got the actual rules committee that I've been watching since 1 a.m. Eastern time. And it's still going. They're still whining. They're still bickering. But more importantly, we're going to do this live stream, and we're going to walk through these things. I'm waiting for a few documents, but I want to show you some things that are dropping out of D.C. while I wait on that, and we go into this actual committee. So make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because this is about that freedom. And today seems to be the day that Johnson wants this entire thing to go. So as you guys get in here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start playing this, because this is
and currently in the tax
basically
code,
just the negotiation.
65
Okay.
years old and
I'm
older,
going to lower
gets
that
to
a little
deduct
bit.
about
So what we're doing
$19,000,
right now, guys,
from
actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that
deduction.
full
They can
volume,
get
and
the
I'm just
standard
going to
deduction.
tell them to be quiet. So what we're doing right now is we're kind of in a flux period right now. All the negotiations that have been happening behind the scenes, all the negotiations that have been very public, all of it is kind of coming together in this really gross sausage making process, okay? I'm still waiting on some final documents along with the rest of DC, but I'm going to show you where we're at currently, the lay of the land. You're not missing anything right this second, because literally they are just debating back and forth about who's stupider. That's it. All right. So, man, I was looking everywhere for some kind of update on this. Appreciate you going live. We will go as long as we can. I have a sneaky suspicion that if this goes to the House broad, I'm not going to get sleep for like 48 hours, but I don't care, because this is that big. All right, let's get into this. So let me show you the big news of the day. So this dropped last night, and I'm going to leave it right here. This is actually from the rules.house.gov, okay? This is very important to understand. Number 487, this is the amendment that Representative from Texas Cloud put in here. Okay, I'm going to read this to you really quickly, and then I'm going to show you, or tell you, what this means, because there's a few different options. Okay, the amendment states, remove suppressors from the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act, treating them as standard firearm accessories, prohibits states from imposing taxes on registration requirements on suppressors, ends the submitted $200 transfer tax, and streamlines the acquisition process for law-abiding Americans, and permits active and retired law enforcement to carry concealed suppressors. Now, that's the Shush Act. This is the thing. They threw the Shush Act in as an amendment for the Rules Committee. That's a good thing. That means it's about to get voted on when these amendments go through. Every single one of these amendments has to be voted on by the Rules Committee, which you're watching, which is right here, and it has to, oh God, she's insufferable. The Rules Committee has to vote on all these amendments because it has to go to the floor, the whole floor. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So we're going to find out if this bill, or amendment 487, is going to become the added suppressor legislation into the bill, the reconciliation bill, or if there's an option B, which we're still waiting on some documentation. I'll keep you up to date on that. But the reason I'm telling you this is there's so much going on behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. This is on the forefront right now. This is the front burner. You're going to see this. This is amendment number 487 out of 500. So it's going to be a hot second. But the reason that this is important is because if this goes through, amazing. If it doesn't, it does not mean dead in the water. That's kind of where I'm getting. There's so many different things happening, and I'll bring them to you as soon as I have them. You're probably going to hear dings here as DC continues to wake up, but we're waiting on some stuff. That's option number one. Option number two, those documents don't come through in a timely manner, and they realize they don't have the documents, and they basically request a recess, which backs the entire schedule up. Or, seriously guys, I did not go to sleep last night. Or option number three, which is we get the things that we're waiting on, we find out what's in said things we're waiting on, and then we explore those options there, again, continuing on with the amendment process. Now, this is truly interesting right here, and if you guys are just getting in, I'm just catching you up to what's been going on, because we're probably going to spend a lot of time online together, all right? So, this came out today, and I'm going to just drink my coffee shamelessly, I don't even care. So this is what happens. If you're just now tuning in, we're watching the Rules Committee. Democrats are being upset. Republicans are like, you're all dumb. Okay, cool. We're waiting on the amendment process. This is really key. A late night turns into an early morning, a big day for Johnson. Okay, this is from Punchbowl News. This was released a couple hours ago. I'm going to walk you through a few of the things here that are really key to give you an idea of where we've been, where we're going. All right. So Speaker Mike Johnson and the House GOP leaders are finally getting there. The House Rules Committee is in session, which is we're watching live, I just have it muted, preparing the Republicans' reconciliation bill for floor consideration. Johnson hopes to hold a rule vote today, followed by a floor vote on the full package as early as this afternoon or evening. He is incentivized to move quickly. So now, let me tell you why that's important while I go back to this, just so you can see the theater. The reason that's important, if Johnson is motivated to get this thing out by Friday and be done by Friday, the reason that's so key is because now you're going to start to see all the negotiation come to fruition up to the forefront, and you're going to see what they've been doing behind the scenes. So when that happens, which he's incentivized to do, he's going to move a floor vote on the House floor, which says we can now vote on a bill that just came out of a Rules Committee, which is going to accelerate the process, and then he's going to bring the entire vote to the floor, and then they're going to work on it on the floor. That's effectively what you're talking about. This could be done today. I can't give you over under odds on that, but that's what they're saying in this article. Okay, and just to give you an idea.
Exploit. According to the Penn Wharton budget model and the Tax Policy Center, more than half the benefits from these tax.
Don't care. All right, we're not there yet. All right, so that's where we're at this moment. Again, if you're just now tuning in, Amendment 487. I've been tweeting about this or posting about this on X on my profile all night. They've introduced the Shush Act as an amendment in the reconciliation bill in the Rules Committee. They're going to vote on this they're going to vote on this before it goes to the House floor. So it removes suppressors from the NFA and the Gun Control Act, treating them as a standard firearm accessory, prohibiting states from imposing taxes and registration requirements on suppressors. Now, I will tell you flat out, the end result on this amendment does not mean affirmative or negative, because there's other things that we're still waiting on, which are going to be determinative for this. Okay, if you were to see this in 5 hours, if this were to fail, that's not the end of the world. That's not the end of the thing. Just trust me. We're still waiting on HPA. We're still waiting on the Short Act. There's lots of things that are going in, but the amendment for Shush did go in right here, number 487. Okay. There's tons of things going on, but let me get back to, actually just check they're not doing anything stupid. No, she's still whining. Okay, so now let me get you back to this article. So if you guys were with me on my X profile, we started this process around 1 a.m. Eastern time, and we've been going consistently the whole time. We've gone through one panel, we've gone through second panel, which is right here. That's where Jim Jordan showed up, that's where Jamie Raskin showed up for the Democrats, and now we are currently working on the third panel, okay? This is what the step that we are in right this second. Now, the next step to this is bringing in the amendments. And again, I showed you there's 500 amendments. Okay, a lot of them are Democrat amendments to destroy everything. Poison pills, effectively. But they've got to vote on them. So what we're dealing with now is going through the third panel, where they basically say how evil Republicans are, and then Republicans say, no, you're dumb. And then the Republicans come up and say, no, this is all dumb. That's the theater that's happening right now. The Democrats are chasing the talking point clips to spread out on their social media, saying, look, I'm an amazing fighter for everybody on the Democrat side, down with Trump. And their conservatives are saying the one big, beautiful bill. If I was going to boil this down into tiny little segments and hit buzzwords, Democrat side, you heard the word billionaire and you heard the word dark of night 8 million times from 1 a.m. all the way to current. Trust me, all of you on my X profile with me, we've been hanging out. Y'all have heard it because I've been making fun of it forever, for about 7 hours now. And then on the other side, you heard big, beautiful bill. It's in a battle of narratives right this second when they're talking. Okay, that's nothing new. That's nothing crazy. But again, we are in the third panel. After that, we should start to see some increasing things. Okay. There's one thing missing. I'm not going to name it right this second because it's something that's key that we don't talk about just yet. I want to make sure it gets released before we talk about it, and I'm waiting on it. But basically, this is where we're looking at right here, okay? Let me pull this down for you. The GOP's wheeling and dealing. There have been major changes to the bill in the last 24 hours. The most significant is the overhaul to the state and local tax deduction provision approved by the Ways and Means Committee. That's the SALT thing that they're all getting all uppity about, okay? All of these things are kind of secondary to this point right here. Where is it? Where did I just go? Here we go. That's all kind of secondary to this piece right here. Speaker Mike Johnson and the House GOP leaders are finally getting there. The House Rules Committee is in session, preparing the Republicans' reconciliation bill for floor consideration. Johnson hopes to hold a rule vote today, followed by a floor vote on a full package as early as this afternoon or this evening. He is incentivized to move quickly. That's why I'm doing this live stream. That's why we're going to be on the channel for a while. Is because this can drop in a split second. Like very, very quickly, things can just go from like, oh my God, we're clogged up, to holy crap, it happened. I mean, genuinely, that's a very real thing. And thank you guys for tuning in this early. I'm gonna jump into the comments really quickly. Hopefully there'll be a shortage on lathe soon. Oh, love that. That's good. I'm prepared for the cold water. Eric, I would not be prepared for the cold water. Just be prepared to see what happens. That's the advice I'll give you. The amount of caffeine running through my veins right now just to see 8 hours of DC cronies whining is hurting my soul. By the way, props to that, because we were in that together. All right, let's check in on the Rules Committee real quick, and I'll just kind of look at your comments, look at the chat, keep on waiting for things to come in, like all sorts of things. I'll be in and out, but let me turn that up real quick, as high as I can go.
For renewable energy deployment, block support.
Okay, I'm gonna reload
for
that. Hold on.
home energy heaters and reduce
There we
their
go.
energy costs. And it even goes after investments in climate resilience and environmental justice. So this is just sabotage.
Environmental
Clean energy
justice?
investments
Oh,
aren't
darn.
just good for the planet, they're good for our economy. They've created jobs, they've reduced household energy bills, and they keep our air and water clean. And they help our communities, particularly
Gaslight.
disadvantaged communities,
That's
prepare
pretty
for and
good.
respond to
Pretty good
climate
assessment.
threats. But because these provisions were passed by Democrats and they help us transition to more sustainable energy sources and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, Republicans are determined to tear them down. And the irony is that a lot of these projects are happening in red states, Texas.
Okay, enough with you. Just looking at these. Thank you for listening to these politicians all night so we don't have to suffer the morons ourselves. That's true. Few things making me happier than seeing gun controllers being unhappy. Kevin Huff says there is zero chance they include the full HPA or Short Act. That's your opinion, sir. We shall see. We want our home nuclear power plants. Long story short, you get nothing. That's not true at all. We are waiting on a few different things. In fact, let me turn the volume back up for you guys so you can listen to that. And I'm going to check in with my sources real quick. Hold, please.
It's a disgraceful betrayal of the American people. It's a bill that punishes the poor, rewards the rich, and threatens the stability of our economy. And the fact that it's being rushed through the House with no real debate, with new things being exposed about it practically on an hourly basis, no final CBO score, no transparency, no accountability, should alarm everyone here, regardless of party. So obviously I'm not a fan of the bill.
No.
We have to do better. The sun is up. The American people are looking. Ranking Member Craig, this bill includes the most significant cuts to SNAP in decades. Can you explain what this means for working families and children and seniors who rely on SNAP to put food on the table?
Yeah, it's devastating. It is the largest cut in American history to the most successful anti-hunger program in American history. I mean, we're talking about, and let me make sure my Republican colleagues understand this. The nutrition title is a title in the Farm Bill. This absolutely destroys the Farm Bill coalition that we have worked for decades to establish in our country.
One issue that is raising a lot of concern in Pennsylvania, which I represent, as does Mr. Thompson, is that for the first time ever, this bill would require states to start paying a portion of SNAP benefits. What would this kind of cost shift, Ms. Craig, mean for the state's ability to serve their residents?
Well, at the end of the day, every state's going to make its own decision about what they can accomplish here, and the net effect is gonna be in many states around this country, they're gonna cut the
I'm
benefit.
totally annoying all my people.
States already share
Oh,
50% of the administration.
All right, enough of you guys. All right, so let me keep you guys up to date. So I'm literally texting the people right now. They basically just told me, "Shut up, you'll know when I know." So I was like, okay, I feel respect. I love that. So basically, where we're at right this second, guys, is a lot of people in the chats right here. They are saying that they are concerned about the Short Act as well as the HPA. So I can tell you right now. One of my people just said a congressman passed away. That's unrelated. So the things everything is on the table right this second. Okay, I can tell you that everything is on the table. We're waiting on a few key points. Literally, the Democrats are actually doing the Republicans a favor now. They just don't realize it. But we're waiting on some very things. What the? Okay, apparently, Jerry Connolly just passed away, and he's one of the ranking members. Well, that makes things different. All right, let me turn this up.
And,
she's a treat. Watch this.
And this sort of resembles putting us in that direction. This bill is the top 1% get 20% of the benefit in 2027. The top 5% get 40% of the benefit. The top 10% get 52% of the benefit of this bill. Ms. Scanlon, if you'll just indulge me for a moment, I just want to talk a little bit about the quote-unquote small business benefit. I noticed that Ms. Fishbaum referenced the numbers of small businesses in all of the Democrats' communities.
This is like Jasmine Crockett in like 40 years. I said it.
Real question. Is or is it ain't a small business? I'm looking at one of the things I think is particularly egregious. One of the most expensive pieces of this big, beautiful bonanza for billionaires. That's the 199A deduction.
The Democrat leader.
They claim it's for small business, this pass-through. And, they wax on about, how important it is. In 2022, that was the year that we were able the JCT was able to find data. In 2022, taxpayers claiming the 199A deduction with adjusted gross income, all of it qualified business income, in the neighborhood of $200,000 a year. That small business claimed about $6,500, $6,500 on average. Taxpayers claiming the 199A deduction with adjusted gross.
Okay, I can only take so much. All right, so I got to address one chat that came in here. Jalapeno says, you are streaming live way too early. This is currently a nothing burger. That is where we differ, kind sir, and I appreciate your statement. Here is why that is not a nothing burger, or this is not a nothing burger at this point. You have to understand what is going on the actual field here. Because now you have a congressman who just passed away. Does that accelerate? Does that slow? What does that do to the scenario? You've got this amendment, the Shush Act in 487 that has been put in the Rules Committee, removing suppressors from the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act. Treating them as standard firearm accessories prohibits states from imposing taxes or registration requirements on suppressors. Now that's one piece to this. You've also got some other things that are happening in the background that we are expecting momentarily. There are things that are wrapping up inside this actual Rules Committee that we're going to find out if they're going to adjourn or if they are going to actually start the amendments. That's the important piece of doing this stream right now. It's not about finding the end culmination. It's giving you guys the information so you are not going to be surprised when everything accelerates. That's why we're doing these things now. That's why we're doing this live stream right this second. But I do appreciate it.
Question is, well, these are our job creators. And I know I'm being
Whoopi
informative.
Crockett, that's fantastic.
But in 2022, of the 17 million people who claim the 199A deduction, fact checks this. 84% of these businesses had 0 employees. 0.
So this is actually her second time
And so,
talking.
Thank you for asking me that question.
We're actually at the very front of this.
And yeah, the benefit goes primarily to rich people. And like I said, just in the examples that you've given, the average taxpayer, not
She
talking
is
about
100%
business,
annoying,
the
that's right.
individual is going to receive $265 at least
Oh,
until it expires in 2020.
man, that was a dramatic
I
pause.
appreciate that, and I have a few more questions.
Yeah,
for you,
see,
but I wanted to yield to the chair.
This is not the first time. This is
Yes, ma'am.
the second time she got asked a direct question. Yep. Turn your mic on.
Oh no.
What?
To stop and say a prayer for his family.
They're going to announce Conley just passed away. So that's
Take some time.
so. What you're witnessing right now is actually these reps figuring out that one of their colleagues just passed away. So you're actually watching them talk about Jerry Conley, who just passed. I just got the text message about 3 minutes ago, which is pretty crazy.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Madam
everybody, and Miss Scanlon.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, it's absolutely the right thing to do. You're recognized, Miss Scanlon.
Appreciate that. Certainly a valued colleague, and this is quite a loss. Representative Moore, we had
Weird
just talked
response.
about the fact that the top 1% or top 0.1% are going to get a $300,000 per year tax break, which
Yeah.
is almost 4 times the median
So this
household
hold on a
income.
second. All right. There are 2 more Democrats that you're about to talk to, and then we get to this. Then we get to the point where we're actually figuring out what we need to figure out. Okay. So far in this stream, I've shown you where we're going, what the timeline is, what the stops are, what's introduced, where the options are. 3 different options of what we're about to do. But before we do that, we have to get through 2 more Democrats. The first one you're going to see, he's talked. All these guys have done the same order twice, so that's why I can kind of tell you what's going to happen. Nagus, the guy to her left, you're going to see him in a second. He's going to talk, and I guarantee you, because he did it on his other 2, he's going to talk about how the bill or this committee was brought up at 1 a.m. and it was unconscionable, and how dare they? Why would they do that? I can't find an answer. Maybe we'll figure it out. That's what he's going to do. And he's going to drone on about it forever. That's what he did in the first 2 segments. That's it. Then there's this other woman. I can't remember her last name. It's like Luis Figueroa or something like that. And she gives AOC a run for her money on stupid. But it's going to be the same stuff. After that one is when we figure out where this goes. Because I think, at least from my sources, we're supposed to get that documentation that we're waiting on before those 2 finish, which is another reason that we're live, is because I can give you this information immediately as it happens, which is really important, particularly when moving this fast across the board. Liberty 603 says, the Short Act is a bigger movement than suppressors. SBR should have never been regulated. Arbitrary line in the sand, dangerous precedent. So, again, if you guys are not familiar with what we're talking about, what's on the table right now, and Johnson wants to get this done potentially within the next, 12 hours, you're talking about the Shush Act, which is a listed amendment, which I just showed you guys. You're talking about the Hearing Protection Act, which is still in the works, and you're talking about the Short Act, which is still in the works. None of these things are dead. There's a lot of things that are kind of converging right now, which is why we need to be watching this when it drops, because this is pretty important stuff. Chris Gray says, just started watching. Who are these people? These people are all Democratic reps, and they are all offering their own little verbiage of why Republicans are awful and Democrats are amazing. And this big, beautiful bill is a big, ugly bill, and it features benefits for billionaires, and it's going to kill people, and everyone who breathes, who has ever breathed, and who has been under the sun at any point in time will die because of this bill. That's a good summation of the last 8 hours. And then the conservatives are like, well, this is kind of dumb because that's stupid. No, it's not. That's pretty much it. However, interesting little side note. She has actually brought up the suppressors in the ways that the Ways and Means Committee came out with, and she was complaining about it. saying that it was unconscionable that we would dare take away a tax on suppressors. And I'm just like, oh, we haven't told you the whole thing yet, huh? Okay. So we're kind of just waiting on that. This just means we're doing things right. Doing a great job. Thanks. Hey, Corey, I appreciate you. This is literally, guys, I'm not exaggerating. Tons of people have said it. I've been saying it for a while. This is a generational opportunity. And I am privileged, honored, excited, amped to even be here. This is incredible to be right here. Super chat. Thank you, Isaac. At T-Rex Arms should challenge David Kustoff. It's in the same district. That'd be cool. As I mentioned earlier, free airtime for me. Let's check in and see if the stupid is still flowing.
No providers at all.
Well, I wanted to pursue that line with
Shane,
Mr.
my pleasure.
Barone. In our community, we actually just lost the major healthcare system. It was bought out by a private equity entity and bankrupted. And we have been unable to find anyone to take it over.
Okay, they're still doing stupid stuff. 82 Schoolboy says, Braden, do you realize the HPA will ban suppressors in Washington State because our ownership is based on the registration in the NFA? Because this would be such a sea change, if this pops out, you're going to see a lot of states offering unconstitutional laws that have been standardized because of the NFA that are going to be sued and it's going to be another battle. It's kind of be like a Bruin situation where the Bruin decision dropped and then all the states started making up their own stuff and they started getting sued and there was this huge long fight. It would be a similar idea. All right, Torgo the White with a super chat. Did they re-add the Short Act? There is nothing in language as of this moment. That's one of the things that we're waiting on. And if you guys are just now tuning in, I'll run through those three things in a second. Let's check in, make sure we're not missing anything important. Probably not, because Democrats are talking.
For that, some don't have much payout, much uncompensated care at all. And so they either close because, now they can't make it, or they try to pass that on to private payers or other government or other government payment.
Yeah, no, still monotone, still boring. All right, so back to these three things, if you guys are just now tuning in. So, the three things that we're waiting on here, we got to get through two more. Sorry, I do not speak Latin, yes, man. I wish I could, but I don't. But thank you for the super chat. So, guys, where we're going with right now is we're waiting on two more Democrats to finish up their conversations. And I'm trying to provide all this information early on so you guys know the lay of the land. One scenario, we're going to get an amendment vote on all the amendments, and then it's going to go forward, and which kind of factors into the third scenario, or the second scenario. Hold on a second. We're going to get all the amendments voted down. The Shush is already, voted for. The Shush is already in there. That's Amendment 487. We're going to find out what they say on that. If we get the documentation that we want, that's going to kind of precipitate going after all the amendments because we're waiting on something very important. Again, I've got text threads open. We are trying to get it as soon as we can. If all the documentation comes out that suffices and you get Johnson's desire to get this thing passed pretty much in the next 12 hours, either this afternoon or this evening, and even the chairwoman said something very similar, around 11 o'clock or noon Eastern time, then you are rolling, and that's really solid. The other option is if it does not come through, then you're talking about a recess, which would kick time backwards. And over the last 8 hours, a bunch of you guys with me who we've been pulling an all-nighter together listening to this on my X account, at Braden LOA, by the way, if you want to follow it. You guys know it's been a lot of Democrat whining and complaining and just moaning. But got a super chat. Christian Harper, Braden, thank you for keeping us informed. Stay with it. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. You guys are amazing, very generous, and I appreciate it. But yeah, so that's what we're dealing with right now. This whole committee is all about the Democrats chasing that viral clip for themselves for their own re-election to be viewed as the fighter, okay? All of this is a prerequisite to get to the votes of the amendments and get to the votes of some things that we're waiting on. So once we start that process, the chairwoman can just call the votes for the amendments and they just run down it. And after that, they go straight over to the House and then they start changing the rules in the House and then they start running down it. This whole process is starting. I mean, it is quite conceivable that I could be streaming for the next 12 hours. I don't know that. We're going to see. But that's what we're talking about right this second. So I will. Okay, also, all right, so good buddy of mine, Curtis, VSO Gun Channel, called to get an update since you stayed up all night and could fill me in. No wonder you didn't answer. Yeah, I didn't answer. Sorry, dude. It's kind of on the internet and stuff. Basically, lots of stuff going on, Curtis. Lots of things that are happening. We're kind of at the pivot point right this second. All right.
And for my constituents, the lie heap
Do we-
cuts
are we done with this one yet?
obviously are huge in our northeastern cities where we have cold winters and hot summers. The Medicaid copay, as I understand it, that was something that many of our Republican colleagues were unaware of the fact that
Okay.
this bill would impose a Medicaid copay.
If you're just now tuning in, it's been 4 hours, or it's been 8 hours of this. So it's been a thing. They're all chasing the same thing. Now, what I was saying, this guy to her left, not the guy in the back, the guy directly to her left, his name is Nagoose, and he's from Colorado. I think it's Boulder. I think we were talking about it back and forth in the X profile, in the X account. He is going to, oh my goodness gracious, if he does the same thing he's done in the other two, it's going to be annoying. She's kind of playing the annoying shrew. The guy to her left, Nagoose, I don't know. We'll see what angle he takes. Usually it's the same thing. Trevor, I'm married. Man, I looked down for 1 second, and Curtis is up in my comments. Okay, you were talking to somebody else. Okay, cool. So for all of you guys who are doing all the calls for the speakers and the reps, amazing. Let me catch you up. Curtis, I can actually walk you through it right this second. Check this out. So this is where we're looking at right now. This is where the reference in the information is coming from that I've been talking about so far. As you can see, Chairwoman Fox right there in the middle, and then Speaker Johnson on the right. She's wearing the same thing as she's wearing in this conference. So this is a picture from today. Okay, so they're obviously back there wheeling and dealing. A late night turns into an early morning and a big day for Johnson. Speaker Mike Johnson and House GOP leaders are finally getting there. This is the important part. It's in session, preparing the Republicans' reconciliation bill for floor consideration. Johnson hopes to hold a rule vote today, followed by a floor vote on the full package as early as this afternoon or this evening. He's incentivized to move quickly. Now, through here, they talk about starting to lose people for votes on Thursday. They're talking about Friday, absolutely not, trying to get it done before the whole Memorial Day weekend. All sorts of stuff. Let me see if I can actually get that for you because we got time. One more thing in regular order. Don't care. Okay, I can't find it. Doesn't matter. The point is, they were talking about Thursday, but they might get this done today. And if they get this done today, that'll be crazy. Check in. Yep, she's still droning on. I'm not doing that. Okay. So now, Curtis, this is the other piece. And for anyone else just now tuning in, the Shush Act has been issued as an amendment to this reconciliation. All right, so I got a text just now for a second, and I will tell you guys in 1 second what this means. And we'll probably get culmination of this here in the Rules Committee shortly. This one right here, the Shush Act, is removing suppressors from the NFA and the Gun Control Act, okay, and then stop states from imposing taxes or registration requirements. That's what's in here as an amendment. Now, let me take you over to this committee. Again, same thing, Democrat. Let me show you, or let me tell you rather, what just dropped through. There was some movement on the bill overnight. Might mean we won't get final passage of the bill tonight. So again, everything's still in flux. Where we're at right now is at the culmination. I've shown you, or I've told you about what's happening from the sources that I've got. I'm telling you what's happening on the media side, Johnson's side, the Rules Committee side, the amendments that have been issued. All of these things are coming together into this final culmination. So you're literally just going to be hearing a bunch of people right this second reiterating the whole point of how bad the Republicans are for daring to do this.
And covering, that's where the student loan crisis
I'm going to let that
came in,
drone for a
because
second and do some researching.
families don't have that kind of money.
Sure.
They have to, if they don't have a lot of money, they have to come up with, make it up with loans.
Yeah.
And by limiting the amount you can borrow, you may not be able to get enough to be able to go, so you don't go at all. Or you get into the private loan market and pay all kinds of extra fees. And then after you've gone, the repayment is more expensive.
Right.
So it's just a bad deal, particularly if you're going this far into debt. People ought not be worse off.
So we've got bad news on the food front. We've got bad news on the health front. We've got bad news on the education front. We've got bad news on the tax front for our working families. I think it's a bad bill, and we shouldn't move it forward. Thank you. I yield back.
Shocking. All right, so now we got two more. Here comes the goose. Listen to this guy.
Mr. Norman, you're recognized.
You know, I've listened to this filibuster for a while. All of us have.
Actually, this is the Republican.
And you know, when you keep hearing the four-letter word "work" being demonized, when you keep hearing the fact that you're because somebody has to go to work, your children are dying, mothers are starving. You know, it's really that's really an insult to the working Americans, to that plumber who works 80 hours a week, to that electrician who works nonstop, to that waitress who is on her feet all day long. You know, and when you look at the work requirements, fact check, Ms. Moore, you know what it is? 20 hours a week. 20 hours, that I think, if my math's right, that's 4 hours a day. It's
Mr. Norman,
ins-
would you yield just 1 second? It's 80 hours a month, which comes out to 18.4 hours per week. So,
Fact check.
Fact
18,
check.
Okay, 18 hours a week. Okay, that is an insult to whoever's watching this
No, that's true.
this hearing. That's an insult to the hardworking Americans that, regardless of what you do, work brings dignity. Work brings a cause, a sense of purpose. Work brings a reason to get up in the morning. Work helps find your God-given talent.
I'm working
And
sources right
to
now, by
say,
the way. That's what I'm doing.
Work is going to kill children. Work is going to kill mothers, fathers. You're just wrong. You're not telling the truth. That's not right. America was built on work. And I can hear over and over and over again this
Gentlemen, you?
rich, poor, billionaires. You know, the identity politics, thank God 77 million people said no to that. They're tired of it. And America is a great country because of work, and people are willing to do it. And it's really, you know, when you look at the fraud that's going on, and I think from if you check your facts.
Would the gentleman yield?
We've got, no. There's
No.
13 billion, check the facts, 13 billion of fraud, like in the SNAP cases, people getting money when they shouldn't have. 13 billion per year, that's 1.3 billion per month, if I check my facts right. You know, Americans have had enough of this, and I'm sorry, I know you learned it from the President Biden.
Oh, snap.
Free education, free food for 15 million illegals that came into this country. You know, free housing. I'm sorry, that's not how this country was built. And you know, I admire all of you for the work that you do. Each one of you do work. And for those who keep identifying as, you know, demonizing work and demonizing those who have been successful, you never know the long hours that they put in, the long hours that they took to build a business, the long hours that they didn't get a paycheck. So you're hurting the very people who you could give hope to. And by demonizing this, Americans are just tired of it. You want to know somebody who's a definition of hard work? Right here. Came from nothing. Look at what she did.
Look what you did.
Many of you. And if you want to say rich, I think if you've got your health, you're pretty rich. If you've got your health, Jerry Conley would get it back. So I resent you saying that, and I really, it's a sad day that we've gotten to that point in this country when so many people are doing that. And
Are you asking me a question, sir?
No, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't think you would.
filibustered long enough.
I think you would actually ask me a question about work.
I did not ask you a question. I'm not asking you a question. What I'm saying is, it's my time, Ms. Moore. I didn't interrupt you. You went on for, I counted, you went on for 20 minutes, which is fine. And you are entertaining, I'll give you that. But
I'm just really smart.
Ms. Moore, it's my time. All I'm saying is that the day of demonizing work, the day of demonizing America is over with. And Americans, people got it right. And we're going to continue to have a great country. This bill, this big, beautiful bill will help this country out. It's got some things we got to work out, but it'll help this country. And the other thing I will tell you is the taxes are the people's money. Government is y'all's God. The taxes are the people's money. And to give it back to them, like Chairman Smith and Chairman Thompson and Tim, that's the right thing to do. So we're going to right the wrong for the last 4 years that this country's been through a living hell.
Yes, Tom, that's what that was.
And thank God we got people who are willing to step up and go to work. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Mr. DeGoose, you're recognized.
Here we go. This is the guy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, my friend from South Carolina talked a lot about work. Just for the record, we've been working for the last 8 hours here in the committee, and I can say the same for the chairwoman. I'm not so sure I can say the same about you. I think you snuck out for a little shut-eye for a few hours, so I'm not sure. There was a lot of talk about work, but I haven't seen you in a few hours, so welcome back. Anyway,
this guy's such a...
I do want to take a minute in all seriousness, and I want to thank the chairwoman for taking a moment to center our conversation here, just to remember and honor our colleague, whom I know we all treasured, and he was a giant among giants in this institution.
Internet person says this guy's a tool.
Member,
he is a
one
tool.
Of our committees.
That other guy was base, though.
Of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, appointed by Madam Speaker Emerita. He was one of the most prolific legislators in the House. I don't know that there's a single member of the House during his tenure in this body that had more laws signed, more pieces of legislation signed into law by presidents of both parties.
Someone's typing into their mic.
More than anything else, he was a fighter.
It's not me.
So I just know that we're going to miss him, and I think that it's a big loss for the people of Fairfax and for the folks in the Commonwealth of Virginia and for this institution. I want to ask some questions. Thank you to the panel. You all have been, I think it's the longest panel. As you know, we started at 1 a.m.
There it is.
So we've been here for about 8 hours.
There it is.
I'm told the sun has risen and that it's morning outside, but we haven't, been outside the room yet. So
such a dork.
We'll just have to take your word for it. And as I said to the panel that preceded yours, I have been, I think maybe I can speak for my colleagues on this side, we have been on this collective journey to try to figure out
Anthony, that one got
why
me.
the Speaker and Republican leadership decided to do this midnight, middle of the night, dead of night
There it is.
on your reconciliation bill. And of course, we believe it's because this bill is indefensible and the Republican leadership did not want this bill debated out in the open. And I've tried to get answers from a variety of my different colleagues. One of my colleagues,
did I call this guy?
Mr. Griffith, offered an explanation more recently and essentially said, well, we did it in anticipation that there would be extensive debate by Democrats on this committee. Of course, there's only 4 of us on this committee. Mr. Guthrie, Chairman Guthrie, you haven't had a question in a while, so maybe I'll pose this to you. How long was your hearing in Energy and Commerce?
My hearing at first, my comments on Jerry. He was probably one of my dear friends here, and was supposed to be honored this weekend in Dayton, Ohio, with a NATO meeting. He's people don't really realize there's actually a NATO parliament, and some of us are designated. He was the president or speaker of the NATO parliament. So not only is Jerry beloved by all of us, he's beloved around the world. All of our NATO allies, every time he showed up at a meeting, Jerry, there's Jerry, and they just everybody adored him because he was just an adorable, wonderful person, and I'm gonna miss him, and I'll be in Dayton this weekend, and I'm sure a lot of us are gonna shed a lot of tears for him. So the question, my hearing went for 26 and a half hours.
26 and a half hours. What time did you start it?
We started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you weren't worried about the anticipatory debate. You knew that Ranking Member Pallone was going to come armed with extensive arguments and motions and amendments, but you decided to hold the hearing during the day nonetheless,
We
right?
started during the day.
Started during the day.
Started during the day.
Yeah.
This guy really
Well,
doesn't like the
wish,
fact that it was 1 a.m.
That the speaker
Really
would
bad.
have taken the same approach, but it's clear to me, and I think clear to the American public, that he did not want to have this debate happen during the day, and I can understand why, given what we've heard thus far. Chairman Smith, I want to talk to you a bit about tax on tips. I heard your opening statement, and I think in some of the colloquies thus far, I think suffice to say that you're very
Colloquies?
passionate about the no tax on
Colloquies?
tips. Is that a fair?
Colloquies.
Yeah,
That's not right.
I'm passionate because of the 4 million tipped employees. Just yesterday, in Washington D.C. at the restaurant that I was at, my waiter asked me, "Are you going to be able to deliver this, Chairman?" So this affects real Americans. So very much passionate about it.
Totally. Why haven't you passed a standalone bill to get this
The
done?
guy
if it's
he's
so
talking
important?
about is the Republican
Because
chairman
there's
of
a
the Ways and
60-vote
Means.
rule over in the Senate,
The Senate just passed their bill yesterday.
which is unconstitutional because all taxing
Of
has
course,
to originate from the
I'm well
House.
aware, but I think, I guess I heard your first explanation was, well, there's 60 vote Senate barrier, so of course we could never get it passed in the Senate. But then Ted Cruz and Jackie Rosen, my understanding is, they passed the bill by unanimous consent. Of course, as you said, there's the constitutionality issue. So I just don't understand why the Ways and Means Committee doesn't just mark up a bill. I think the sponsor of the bill is sitting right behind you. He's been in this hearing since like 3 a.m. Mr. Horsford, he's got a great bill on this. I think we could get this on the bill tomorrow. I think there'd be bipartisan strong support. Clearly, there's unanimous support in the Senate. I mean, if you're so passionate about it, why don't we get it done?
Mr. Goose, you know that I have tried to work on tax policy, bipartisan tax policy the last
So,
Congress, that we got 82% of
the guy
vote
talking right now
to move it forward. Unfortunately, it died in the Senate.
is the
so
Republican
sometimes bipartisan
Jared,
tax policy does not work.
Jason Smith.
I believe the no tax on
He's the
tips,
chairman
no
for
tax on
Ways and
overtime,
Means
the
Committee.
tax relief of seniors are so urgent.
That's one of the
I would
guys that
not
watered
allow
down
a
the
tax bill
HPA.
to move forward unless it includes that in the House of Representatives. That's why I'm
Maybe put a
delivering for working
little
class
bass in that
Americans.
voice.
Well, anyway, I guess I don't want to belabor the point here.
Huh.
You keep
About 8 hours late
referencing
for
the
that,
Senate.
bro.
Unless I'm missing something, I thought the United States Senate passed on unanimous consent without any objections. Ted Cruz,
You guys
Jackie
are on
Rosen,
fire.
Democrat, Republican bill to not tax.
Curtis,
tips.
don't
And
encourage
so
him.
I'm not really understanding the hurdle there, but anyway, you have a different worldview as to, I guess, the way to effectuate it.
Brog, we're waiting on that right now.
Can you give us a sense of where the state and local tax deduction piece is going to end?
Thank you, Doug.
What
Super
are we going
chat.
to be
Thank
voting
you.
on later today?
What I'll say is that the $30,000 deduction that we passed out of the Ways and Means Committee, capping it at people who make less than $400,000, the Ways and Means Committee felt like that was a reasonable compromise that would help provide necessary tax relief, and that's what the language is right now.
Hey, Curtis, you
Okay.
you
but I
wonder why
mean,
we've had some of the
you're the
conversations
chairman
we've
of the
had
committee.
about
We're supposed to be voting on this bill in a few
Ways
hours.
and Means.
What I understand, there's rumors of a manager's amendment or maybe a secondary manager's amendment, or they'll come up with some other way to describe a third manager's amendment. I'm not sure. There's a lot of
Okay, hold on a
reporting
second.
on it.
This is-
Who would I go to talk to figure out what we're voting on later today as it relates to the state and local tax deduction?
Okay, don't care. All right, this is really important, guys. This is why we've been waiting. This is why we're doing this live stream right now, because they're starting to talk about stuff that you need to know. So, I don't care. I would like to thank myself and God. That's all he said. I don't care. All right. So, what he just said, he just kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. So, all night, from 1 a.m. all the way till now, they have been subtly hinting at two things. This is very important for you guys to understand, particularly around the Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act, okay? Remember, the Shush Act is over here as an amendment already. They have alluded to the fact that there's going to be a House vote today. He just said it again. So that's even more evidence to the fact that they are talking clearly offline about voting today. The chairwoman has said it. He just said it. That's important. Now, the second thing, he just mentioned a manager's amendment. That is the 5th or 6th time that they've mentioned that in these hearings. This is kind of what they're talking about is the final piece before anything moves forward. The manager's amendment is what's being waited on. If that manager's amendment that they're referencing comes out, he mentioned the first one, the second one, maybe a third one. if you start to see those things to come out, that's where we're looking. That's what we want to be angling at, because he's even talking about it publicly. That's part of the whole process. If the manager's amendments don't exist, then simply we recess. This is one of the things that we're waiting on. I'll let him continue talking and reach out to my sources real quick.
Some questions for you, Chairman Thompson, with respect to the agriculture mark. Help me understand, and maybe Ranking Member Craig can help me understand this as well. You all have sunsetted the exemption for, you've included an exemption for veterans within what you've determined to be the able-bodied requirements in SNAP.
Veterans, homeless, and young people that age out of foster care up to age 24.
So veterans, homeless, and then what was the third?
Foster youth.
Foster youth.
Yeah.
But you've sunset that exemption in 2030. That exemption only lasts through 2030.
Just waiting back some stuff real quick. Actually, I got one more source I can talk to real quick. Let's get it.
Oh, that's correct, because those were actually put in place in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That's where those three provisions were added. And I actually believe that,
let me ask you, I guess the question I'm asking is, why not eliminate that sunset? Why,
well, my question back to you is, why would you not want those individuals to have access to greater opportunity, which only comes through being eligible under the SNAP title for the nutrition benefits, for the career and technical education, SNAP employment, career and technical education.
That's actually
the farm
a
bill.
really
why are you
interesting
exempting
question.
that?
A really interesting question. Jeremy Wills just put in the chat: is HPA, the Hearing Protection Act, or the Shush Act better in y'all's opinions? Let me know in the comments right there. I'm actually curious what you guys like better.
Benefits.
Okay, let me take a step back so I can just understand that. I guess what I'm trying to understand is the rationale.
You guys making fun of this guy in the chat was the highlight of the last 10
veterans,
minutes, by the way.
Homeless
Thank you for
youth,
that.
Foster youth from these requirements until 2030. So hold on, let me finish it. You've clearly decided that it's important to proceed with those exemptions until 2030. Otherwise, you would have said, we're just going to end the exemption now. So you believe it's important to do for the next few years. Why have you decided not to extend it further? Why is 2030 the year that you've decided that veterans should no longer be able to be exempted from these
That was a
requirements?
part of what, well, quite frankly, my negotiations on that with.
So it is, the volume's as loud as it can go with what they're talking into the mics. So effectively, the way the Shush Act, because a few are asking for the difference, the Shush Act, which is an actual sitting amendment, I'll show you real quick. In this bill, it's actually been filed as an amendment under 487. This is the Shush Act. This one removes suppressors from the NFA and the Gun Control Act, which is a bonus. I don't believe I'm actually like 100% sure. The Hearing Protection Act does not remove them from the Gun Control Act, and it treats them as, it does not treat them as standard firearm accessories like the Shush Act does. Shush Act also prohibits states from imposing taxes or registration requirements on suppressors. The Hearing Protection Act does not do that. There's a few differences. Personally, I think the Shush Act is stronger, but you know how Washington, D.C. works. It's not necessarily which one's stronger, it's which one will work. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. So this guy is just he's gonna keep doing this, and after this, the person directly to his left, that's the last one we need to see, and then we're gonna hear something. That's what we're waiting on. If the amendment process starts and we start to get documentation that we're waiting on, then the ball starts really rolling real fast. Because again, as I showed you prior to this, I don't want to hear this guy talk right this second. As I showed you prior to this, right here, this is really important if you guys were not here at the beginning. The House Rules Committee is in session, and Speaker Mike Johnson and the House GOP leaders are finally getting there. Preparing the Republicans' reconciliation bill for floor consideration, Johnson hopes to hold a rule vote today, which would basically mean you can vote on the whole bill today. So he's trying to get the whole thing to today. Followed by a floor vote on the full package as early as this afternoon or evening. He is incentivized to move quickly. All right, so here's the piece. And then I'll go back to Carlton Jr. or Hakeem Jr. You guys are just roasting this guy on fire. It's amazing. Here's what we're waiting on effectively. We've got to get to the point where this gets to the floor the way we need it to get to the floor. If that happens, Katie bar the door. because it's going to be fast. It's going to be furious. You see what I did there with the ATF? And it's going to be something that will be beneficial if we finish this strong. So that's as much as I can tell you right this second, because we're still waiting on a few things. But if it goes to the House and it leaves this committee, which I will show you what's happening as it goes forward, if it goes down like that, we're in a good place. All indications are that I don't want to say that. Indications are the process is moving along. So let me just keep it there. All right, let me get back to Carlton Jr. God, you guys are hilarious.
Generate in terms of revenue over 10 years?
I know, it wasn't in my
It's one-
jurisdiction, but
No, I understand, let me tell you.
as a former
1.4,
healthcare
let me finish.
professional,
You said you don't know, so let me
these
tell you.
suppressors
I hear you.
are a healthcare major.
I understand, I hear you, so let me just explain it to you.
Ooh.
Over 10 years, the Joint Committee on Taxation.
That was good timing, wasn't it?
Estimates that this particular repeal generate $1.4 billion. Think about that. Hold on. I'm not asking you a question, Mr. Chairman. 1.4.
Well, you did ask me
I'm not
the question
asking you a
originally
question
about
now. I'll
veterans.
give you an opportunity
What
in a moment to
question I
answer the
have for you,
question.
what do you have against
Mr.
veterans
Chairman,
being-
I will give you
having
an opportunity to finish.
climb
I'm not
the-
asking you a
run a little
question.
higher in the ladder of
Mr.
opportunity?
Chairman, I'm not asking you a question. I'll
really good at
redirect
that.
it to the ranking member since I'm not asking you
All
this
right.
question.
Just
Ranking
remember,
member.
it is the member of the committee's time, and
Thank you, Mr.
so
Chairman.
we
So-
can't have the
I will simply say this,
back and forth.
and I'll address this towards the ranking member. $1.4 billion that will be generated by virtue of this repeal of the silencer tax. This is a tax that has been on the books since the mid-1930s, 100 years.
We're aware.
That's during Republican administrations, Democratic administrations. I don't remember Republicans, or President Trump for that matter, trying to repeal this tax in 2017, when you all were pursuing this the first time around.
We actually did.
And yet you've decided on this course to repeal this particular tax that would generate $1.4 billion in revenue. Just imagine, Ranking Member Craig,
Dill
what
hole.
you could do with that $1.4 billion to address the cliffs that the chairman, the Agriculture Committee, had described with respect to veterans and foster youth. The poverty cliff, I think was the phrase that he used, that they will face under this bill in 4.5 years. Ranking Member, I'm happy to give you an opportunity.
NWO News, you nailed that.
We could spend, excuse me,
So
we wouldn't have to cut, I suppose.
they're
or
missing
Republicans
this.
wouldn't have to cut.
They're completely missing this.
Food out of the mouths of hungry children, veterans, and our nation's
Dramatic.
seniors. What's happening in this committee is egregious. You just think about the revenue savings that you're cutting from a title of the Farm Bill. And I know I keep saying that, but I know my Republican colleagues across the aisle know that the nutrition title is part of the Farm Bill. And they know that these cuts, $313 billion to a title of the Farm Bill outside of a 12-title, 5-year process, is putting a Farm Bill in jeopardy. And my colleagues are coming after food. We talk about work. I wish Mr. Norman was still here. Nobody here is arguing
He's
against
done working.
work.
He left.
He left again. He's done working apparently. Mr. Norman said, "What do you get? Are you kidding me? We already have."
All right, so keep in mind, NWO News just hit this perfectly. They're talking about tax savings after they taxed our rights. That's perfect assessment. Why would you do these cuts if you could just keep the tax in place from people with their Second Amendment rights? Because you can use all that money for so many amazing things. That's what the guy just said. That's literally what the Democratic rep from Colorado just said. And he's trying to get this little gotcha moment. And I just got this from my one of my people in D.C. Said what they're doing right now is essentially a filibuster and delaying tactic for the Dems. That's what the Democrats are doing, which total checks out. That makes sense because they're in the defensive position in the minority anyway. They don't have a way to do it anything else. So while this is, they're actually buying time for the Republicans, which is actually comical because they don't seem to realize what they're doing. But you know what? Stupid gonna stupid. Let them keep on rolling. Definitely delaying. Yeah, for sure. Let me get...
Failure is what it is, Congressman.
I couldn't say it any better. Ranking Member Craig, I think you articulated it well. And I guess it's just full circle in some ways, given that this was the last panel that we're going to hear from. But it makes a lot more sense in retrospect now why Republicans decided to proceed with this particular hearing in the dead of night.
Oh my God.
Because I think when you begin to see the full picture, it's only when you have the chair of the Ways and Means Committee to talk about the various priorities they are pursuing, repeals of taxes on silencers by way of example, and hear from the Agriculture Committee.
How about just
the
suppressors in
priorities they
general
are
from the
pursuing.
NFA?
Massive cuts to the social safety
let's
net.
talk about that.
That you begin to understand the full picture holistically that is reflected in this bill. And I think that is ultimately what House Republicans did not want the American people to hear or to see. Regrettably for them, we're going to have an opportunity throughout the rest of today and when this bill invariably gets to the floor to continue exposing it to the American public. And I think the more the American public learn about this bill, the less they're going to like it. So with that, I will yield back, Mr. Chairman.
So now he's
Devin
done.
yields back and now recognize the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott, for his time of question.
We get one dude
Thank
from the
you, Mr. Chairman.
Republicans, then one more Democrat. Then we'll find out where we're going.
There's been a lot said about a lot of different numbers here.
Curtis, yes, that's true, correct. So I don't really care what the Republican's going to say. It doesn't matter. All right. Here's effectively where we're at right this second. We are coming to the finalization of this committee. This is the point when we get right up to the end. Okay. We got to find out whether we're going down the amendment road, whether we're going down the House floor vote, or we're going down a recess. We still need manager amendments. We still need all sorts of stuff. Like they are actually behind on that. But I will draw some attention to someone who's missing from this. It's the chairwoman. The chairwoman has about 15 to 20 more minutes to figure out if she's going to recess this committee or if they're going to run a vote on all the amendments and then have the manager amendment as well. So we're coming down to the wire. All right, HBO Matt says the shush violates the bird rule. It's a trap. It borders on that edge. I don't know if it's a trap. Bear with us. See where it goes. See what happens here. Because there's a bunch of things that are happening all over the place. And if you're just now tuning in, we are at the culmination point of this. We're either going to find out if we're going on a recess and I get a nap, or we're finding out if 9 hours of this was actually brought us to the point where we needed to be, which is we're literally probably in the next 20 to 30 minutes, we're going to figure out where we're going on this. Johnson wants to do it today, according to reports. Dems are doing filibuster delay tactics to try to stall as long as they can. We're going to figure it out soon. I've been waiting for this moment for since 1 a.m. Eastern time tonight, or last night. So, let's just hear the guy from Georgia.
Plus the fact that none of the amendments were submitted within the deadline is within the rules package that was unanimously adopted.
Absolutely.
And there was quite a bit of repetition, absolutely.
Okay. So what percentage of Farm Bill spending currently goes to SNAP benefits?
Approximately 82%.
82% of Farm Bill spending now goes to SNAP benefits.
That's correct.
And while the Democrats say they want to work in a bipartisan manner to pass a farm bill, their demand is that 82% of Farm Bill spending must go to SNAP benefits, which means that production agriculture is going to end up with less than 10%. Now, if you're not taking care of production...
All right, so frosted sleet. This is a very good observation. Did Chairwoman Virginia Fox go to take a nap? She left about an hour ago. All right. Very good catch. Let me show you a picture right here what is probably happening. I doubt there's a nap involved. I bet you there's a lot more of this involved. Speaker Johnson, Chairwoman Fox, this morning already, she's wearing the same outfit right now. So where we're currently at, I bet you she is off the floor and they're having that conversation over a coffee just like that. That's what I bet's happening right now because we're coming to the end of this, of where we can actually go. So that's probably where we're at. There's so many things that hang in the balance. She's going to figure out if they're going to go down all these amendments, because if you are not familiar, there are 503 amendments that they have to go through. Thank you very much, Gene Walker, for the super chat. There's 503 of these amendments that they have to walk through and work through, but the most important ones we haven't actually seen yet, so keep that in mind. The Shush Act 487 could not even be on here, but the most important thing about this is what we're waiting on. All right, and I will keep you updated as we know more on that. But this is coming to the finale, and I am excited to see where it goes. It's pretty much either going to be recess or vote. I mean, that's it. Because all the debate that we suffered through all night was a bunch of this to get to this point. And also I could show you patterns and commonalities of things that happened because I was watching the whole dang thing. That's the reason right there. So we could see and get some hints about what's going on. Hence the manager amendment mentions and the voting bill schedule, those things.
Yeah, you're talking, yeah, you made it clear, you don't
That's
care
why
about
the
the 1 million.
coalition exists, because the nutrition and the farm programs exist
The
together.
gentleman's time. He asked the
You
question.
exposed yourself on not caring about the 1 million farmers, and that's fine.
Oh,
All right.
Scott for a $10 super chat says,
GT.
love your channel, my friend. Thank you very much, Scott.
Federal law right now, today, and this is a Biden administration proposal I have.
New rule.
And
They
I would
can't
remind
eat until they
everybody
vote.
that's
I like that,
watching.
Jacob.
When they had the House, the Senate, and the White House, they passed both the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act without a single Republican vote. So that they could have changed any of this they wanted to, and they chose
See,
not.
this is the back and
That's
forth
correct.
stuff.
Federal law limits the amount of time a time-limited, which is an able-bodied working age adult without dependents, participant, commonly referred to as an able-bodied adult without dependent.
All right, so we got a super chat. I got two things I want to hit on real quick. Super chat from Fred Samuel. Keep calling. Also, call your senator. It's not too late. Oh, we're not in the phase of it's too late. We are in the phase of this is the process. We are grinding. So we are getting to the final portion of the House fight here. The next fight is the Senate, and it's going to be just as long and just as difficult. And I didn't say the other one. I almost did, Curtis. So you got the House right now we've been fighting on. We figure it out, and then we go to the Senate. This is nowhere near over. We're probably going to be scrambling on this probably about July 4th or just before, because that's when they want that deadline done. Okay, there's going to be lots of back and forth. The sausage making is happening in mass. Now, someone just put a thing in here, a comment real quick. I just saw it. Here we go. Okay, I'm a little lost. Why the need for the Shush Amendment? If we already wanted and we're pushing for the Hearing Protection Act, are they not one and the same? They are not one and the same. They are slightly different. My bet is that, and this is complete conjecture, no one has told me this. This is complete subjective opinion. My bet is the Shush Act was too much of a question to pass any type of bird rule or anything of that nature, because it basically changed policy from the perspective of the leadership. And they're probably looking at the HPA as more of a viable alternative. If I had to guess anything, that's what I would guess, but it's a complete and total guess. The Short Act is in that same vein. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is it only tax related or is it policy related? They're probably trying to thread that needle, but the energy is there, because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't even have any of these conversations. We wouldn't have Andrew Clyde, wouldn't have Chip Roy, we wouldn't have all the ways and means, people backing off. Like, we wouldn't have any of it if it wasn't there. So that is an important piece to this. Catching up. Cool. All right, let me just turn him back on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Here we go.
And, I think it's really important that we do not mischaracterize.
Fair warning,
our
this woman's
witnesses have
annoying.
said. And there was a gross mischaracterization as to whether the ranking member supports our farmers. I know the ranking member supports our farmers because, indeed, if you just talk about SNAP, 1.5 times the benefit goes to the farmers. So when we're talking about protecting SNAP, we're also talking about protecting the farmer. Is that right, ranking member?
well, if you cut SNAP by $300 billion, you're actually taking $30 billion
All
right out of the
right,
farm income.
How many times does this dog have to go
that
around
is
this bush?
absolutely true, sir.
This is the last time
And,
around the bush, and this is
I'm
the
sorry,
last
I have
dog.
not yielded time, Mr.
Oh,
Scott.
what's interesting, Ms. Ledger-Fernandez, is that my
Ms. Ledger
colleague
Fernandez.
across the room
This is the last
here,
person to talk.
23%
I think the ranking
of
member will talk
folks,
one more
all
time.
households in
yeah.
his congressional district have access to the SNAP program in our country. One of the highest rates in this room, and he is seeking to cut that program by $300 billion. And back to work is good. And matching
work
the
is
program, you're talking about sending single mothers and fathers to work almost 20 hours a week when their child turns 7 years old. If we were here to talk about work, we would be talking about...
I just, it's been 9 hours of this and I'm losing my mind. Man, you guys roasted the woman who's asking the questions. I can't believe these people are in charge. It's infuriating. You know what? That's valid. Totally valid. They have figured out the game and they just play the game. That is exactly what they do. This Democrat seems a little more poised and a little more collected. The one to her left is a little bit more, outlandish and what's that word? Flamboyant. There you go. Talks with her hands.
The rule is that you can mention the
Very
gentleman
CCP.
from Georgia, but you're not to mention him by name in debate.
Oh my
And
God.
so if you would stick to just saying the gentleman or my colleague is fine, and if you would stick to that.
How about dill hole? Does that work?
That's the way we're supposed to operate.
Would you like to restate it to say the gentleman?
Yes, the gentleman from Georgia
so
has one of the highest rates of SNAP households in the country. And he is promoting, decimating this program. And look, there's lots of things in here that should be in a farm bill.
Looks like
Lots
a Karen
of
meeting.
elements. You cut the nutrition title, you plus up the farm programs in reconciliation in a partisan process. That's what's happening here. We should be sitting down and doing a farm bill. And honestly, I know my chairman sitting next to me does not want to cut SNAP by $300 billion, and many of the colleagues on our committee did not want to do it because they didn't show up for debate. They didn't want to be on the record talking about...
Editor, what you missed was we're coming to the finality here. We're going to figure out where we're going. This is the pivot point right now. We're in the middle of the last debate, questioning, interviewing of the panel by the last Democrat. So what will probably happen now is we're going to have this Democrat stop doing her talking and speeching and all and questions and all that. Then after that, you're going to have the ranking member talk for the Democrat side, which is Jim McGovern, and he's going to be a whole lot of dark of night, billionaires stealing food from the mouths of children, et cetera, after her. And then you're going to hear from the chairperson for the Republicans. And I don't know what they're going to say. They're either going to say, we're ready to rock, here's everything, let's go. Or they're going to say, we're going to do a recess, get our ish together, and then we'll come back and do this again. It's going to be one of those two things. I can tell you they're not going to want to recess easily. So if they recess, that indicates something's off in the system.
Well, you know what? Enough of this BS.
Here we go.
That's what it is.
Ranking member.
I mean, nobody here is saying that there isn't dignity in work. What we're saying is that life is complicated, and one glove doesn't always fit all. And what we're also saying, and because I believe this is true, that this is a backdoor attempt to force people off the benefit. So you can take that money and pay for tax cuts for billionaires. That's what it's about. And I will also tell the gentleman
Steve, I agree.
that over the years, hunger has gotten worse in this country. The only time it didn't, believe it or not, was during the pandemic. And that is when we increased the SNAP benefit and when we increased other nutritional programs to help people get through that difficult time. We actually saw hunger go down, food insecurity go down.
Where's the Short Act? We are actually waiting on the culmination of all of it right now. That's exactly what we're here doing the live stream this early for.
I mean, we have the money, we have the resources, we know what to do to end it. What we lack is the political will. And again, tax cuts for billionaires paid for by savings in SNAP is not going to end hunger and food insecurity in this country. And again, I mean, the idea that we can't come together and say that ending hunger and food insecurity is a priority, that somehow it's okay to demonize people who are struggling. I mean, I find that, appalling, quite frankly.
Okay, this is coming from the guy who literally, they said, will never do anything with Republicans. Come on.
From Massachusetts, Mr. McGovern, you know what? Hunger is also a moral issue.
Oh.
It is a moral issue. And that's why 31 religious organizations have written to the chairs of all of the appropriate committees, asking them to not pass these cuts. And they point out that
the ring chick
actually,
again.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair,
Man, you guys are
I ask
rocking.
unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter.
Someone said, Braden, you need to go take a nap. Come back later. You won't miss anything. We're almost to that point. Trust me, we're almost there. If we recess here, there will be a nap. There will be a nap.
This is why it's immoral. And they say it out loud.
But if we go forward, there shall be no nap.
It's the government's moral responsibility when
No,
the
Randall.
government seeks to
The national reciprocity has not been forgotten. It just can't go into reconciliation.
it can become greed and selfishness when the funds saved from the Medicaid and SNAP programs are used
What?
to ultimately widen the gap between rich and poor.
What?
Budgets are moral documents that outline a nation's priorities.
Oh my goodness.
I was at some of the members on here because I know that they believe deeply in the moral obligations. They know.
Guns Are
They
Good says,
know-
"Oh come on, I'm almost 60 and been up just as long as you." I didn't say I was dying, but if they go away for a recess, I am taking a nap.
To take care of the poor. That is the essence of Jesus' teaching about love. It is the essence of almost every religion. Actually, it's the essence of everyone I know. And I think that that is a key.
Oh, it's
failing
better
of
when you
what
didn't
we're
have the
doing.
mic there. Ugh.
But I want to move on for a moment.
No.
Because I know we've given a lot of attention to ag, and I might come back there. But, you know, Ranking Member Pallone, many of the children that we're talking about might be both receiving SNAP
Super
benefits.
chat. My EDC is a Beretta M9A4 with a CGS silencer. When I go out on the town in Texas, really hope I get to see some of y'all do the same if it passes. Oh, cool. Nicely done.
Families are working. We heard the Ranking Member Craig and so many stories. We have people, you know,
This is
congressmen
literally
and
delay
congresswomen
tactics
here
and
who
just
shared their stories about how
chasing
their
clout, chasing emotion.
worked
Blah,
and
blah,
received
blah,
SNAP,
blah,
and that's
blah.
how they got ahead. But isn't that the case, that we have many children who rely on both SNAP and Medicaid?
Okay, I can't. All right, so here's the thing. When they're doing these delay tactics, which they have been doing since 1 a.m. Eastern time, what they're doing is they're just trying to burn it down so they can get past the Memorial Day weekend to try to interrupt any momentum that they would have and to hurt Trump's timeline. That's all they're trying to do. They know they're going to lose. They are literally only trying to delay and give him a loss on timing to make it more difficult. That's it. That is the whole strategy. And that's why they're talking about children. That's why they're talking about SNAP. That's why they're talking about farming. That's why they're talking about the time of the damn thing, the time of dark of night, the billionaire tax. All the things they're hitting on are all emotional focus group talking points in order to stall it further, and delay. That's what we're dealing with here. And I really don't want to turn the audio back up because this guy's voice irritates me even more than our guy on the right who sounds like he's got a pine cone up his butt. But anyway, I digress. Let me check in with my sources. What about the Short Act? Any word? We are waiting on all of those things right now. The Hearing Protection Act, the Short Act, the reconciliation, the actual vote. We're waiting on the amendment votes. We're waiting on all of it. And if you guys are just now tuning in, let me just give you a brief synopsis. Late night turns into early morning for Johnson. He wants to do the vote today, followed by a quick floor vote on the full package. He wants to get it done today, which means he's motivated. That benefits us. Here's the only suppressor action that has been introduced. This is the Shush Act. It would remove suppressors from the NFA and the Gun Control Act, and it would prevent states from actually going after registration of suppressors. That one was put in by Representative Cloud. There are 500 amendments they have to work through. So that's where we're at. Earlier on, the ideal, I was told, was 11 or 11 a.m. or noon of when they'd wrap this up. I don't think it's going to be 11 a.m. or noon. You never know. Maybe they'll pull a rabbit out of the hat. Maybe they'll recess. I don't know. We're still waiting on some documentation, but that's the entire point. Gun drone, what are we trying to accomplish? A great question. What we are trying to accomplish is get this thing out of the Rules Committee the right way so it goes directly to the floor for passage in the House. There's only two places left that this bill goes, the reconciliation bill. There's the Rules Committee, which you are watching right now, and it's about to be at the point where you either go amendments or you go recess. Or it goes, and then the next step is it goes to the floor where the House GOP votes. That would be it. It would be a party line vote. No Democrats would vote for it, so they can't lose anybody, which is why Johnson's probably doing that. Now, the interesting thing about this is you haven't seen the chairwoman for this committee in about an hour, as some of our viewers showed. So legitimately, you're talking about maybe they're behind the scenes negotiating the final thing. Maybe we'll get the management amendments. Maybe we not. Maybe it's just a stall tactic forever. That's why we're watching this live. The second I know, you'll know. Super chat. Hold on, I got to get over to that. Been considering getting a suppressor for my Ruger 57, but all this back and forth has me waiting. Would hate to spend $200 for no reason. Yeah, I wouldn't spend $200 for no reason. I mean, the timestamp that Trump has put on this is July 4th. So, I mean, if July 4th is the date, worst case scenario, July 4th. And I will turn the audio back on in a second. I just really don't want to talk to or hear this guy talk again. This woman's voice reminds me of the bishop's voice on Princess Bride. Marriage. That's exactly right. All right, let's go back over here.
It's red tape. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's going to vary, and I'm glad you mentioned the Arkansas example.
Man, we need to get some
because
testosterone back in
18,000
Congress.
people,
Like,
right?
get
In
some
New
bass in our
Mexico,
voices, you know?
you
Like,
have to fill out, this
these
is
men's
what you fill out
voices
in
are
New Mexico,
squeakier than hers.
right? It's not like people aren't working or that they aren't filling out a lot of paperwork. This is before this bill. And it asks all kinds of stuff. Your immigration status, what you're doing, where you're working. They are filling out too much paperwork as it is. And for a party
what will
that's
this do
always
for home
complaining
builds?
about paperwork,
Can't pay $1,000 for a
they're
tube.
gonna
I don't
just
know
put
yet.
more on there, because that's not the purpose. The purpose isn't to get people back to work. It's to kick people off of Medicaid. It's to not recognize the hard work of those that already are. Because as you put it, 92%?
Kevin can't cook. I don't know the answer to that question.
92% of adults
I will
under
only know
65
when
on
something
Medicaid
passes.
are already working.
Were they?
Or can't work because they're caregiving.
Oh.
Going to school.
Guys, we're in this together.
So
We're going to get through this.
Don't tell us about work. Because we come from families that work. We come from families that get our hands dirty. We know what it looks like and what it feels like. And these are the people
I don't know if you do.
that we are working to protect. And I am very concerned about
Elvira
what they're going
Flood.
to do to indeed the people. When I go to my rural areas, when I went
Valerian,
to
I
the
was
dairy
wondering if anyone was
farms
going to
and
catch
talked
that.
to the people in my rural areas, and
Nicely
they
done.
said, we are the people who get our hands dirty. Because they are, I represent
Curtis
a
says he
large,
watches
large
TV
world
with the
spread.
subtitles on. We could do without the sound. I
They're
know, but I
gonna
want to mix
get
it up a little bit. Sometimes we do
funded.
no sound. Sometimes we do sound. We keep everyone on their
Because
toes.
rural hospitals
Death on their
are
toes,
gonna
some cases.
go under. Madam Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the
Oh,
record.
Madam Chair's back.
Medicaid cuts will
That's
threaten
something.
rural hospitals. And this is, Madam Chair? Yeah.
You finished the.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to go into it because I think it's really important.
I bet you do.
That
Super chat.
Americans who now have wrote.
We could offset all these tax cuts, and we could we cut the salaries and benefits of 500 members of Congress. I like your thinking, Slayer.
In Pennsylvania, 12 rural hospitals, 24% are at immediate risk of closure from what you're doing here. In Michigan,
JD
9
Dale
rural
says
hospitals.
YouTube
Oklahoma,
unsubscribed me
24
twice
rural
now
hospitals.
from the channel. I told you guys that's a
No.
real thing.
Several in my community as well. But if you are representing
Rusty's
a rural
been up
area
all
or
night
a
with
rural
you.
state,
I have
your
to go to
rural
work in a bit.
hospitals
Oh
are
well,
gonna
Dems are
close.
full of it.
Because this is the thing.
Rock on, man. Thanks for showing up and being
We're
there on
gonna
the X
kick you off
profile
of
with me.
Medicaid, and then we're not gonna let you get onto the Affordable Care Act with the subsidies. Is that
Okay.
right?
Shh. All right, you guys can read the subtitles for a second. You guys seem to like that idea for a second. Where'd that one go? I really like that one. Oh, there we go. Coffee Fan with a super chat says politics is just show business for ugly people. That is so absolutely true. Oh, these are our leaders. Dog and pony show. Yeah, that's what the Dems are doing right now. Yeah, this whole thing, they're playing the heartstrings, they're playing the emotion, they're playing this really dumb game. She's the pony. You guys are killing me in these comments. Y'all are hilarious. Just gonna let it keep on riding. I'm watching this at work. Well, I hope you have the sound off. Aha!
And so then they put in the work. They put in the the
Seriously,
prohibition that if you were denied Medicaid, you could not go to the ACA and get
They are
a subsidy.
literally-
You had to pay full freight, which of course none of them could afford to pay.
This is literally nothing but litmus testing, virtue signaling. We love everybody more than everybody else does. You guys hate everybody. How could you take suppressors and not tax them anymore? You know, it's literally just get as many talking point clips as you can. That's all it is. And you're going to see these same clips on their profiles, on their X accounts, on their YouTube channels. They're all going to do it. The only thing we're missing is Jasmine Crockett or AOC, because those two are the worst. But, yeah, this is old people trying to be relevant.
Chairman Moore, I was wondering if you happen to have the bill, if you would mind reading the title of section 11110.
Chairman Smith is the Republican chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Get ready for a testosterone drop.
Oh, sorry, Chairman Guthrie.
I was about to say, you had made me a chairman. I was just gonna say, I
I didn't hear your
accept.
question then, I'm sorry. I didn't hear, I didn't know it directed at me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What, would you ask again?
Okay, if you'd go to page 901.
The
Page
soy boy
901,
returns.
Line 20 of the
So
bill.
true, isn't
You have
it?
the bill in
I
front
don't
of
have
you.
the bill in front of me, but.
Yeah, I'll pass this down to you.
Okay.
Pineapple Boy is back. Oh, God.
Just read that one line,
Which one?
line 20.
Frank, we're figuring
That's
that
not in
out
my
right now.
jurisdiction, I'm sorry, that's why I didn't know
Okay,
about it.
we can pass it. I think that was Ways and Means, actually.
Well, that'd be Smith.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pineapple
I
Boy,
don't
as
know why
Curtis
this-
calls him.
Chairman Smith, sorry.
Okay, so what are you asking?
Would you please,
Oh.
so that the American public knows what this bill does, one of the little things that it does, would you please read page 901, line 20?
I think it'd be better if you read it.
Oh, he doesn't want to read it.
Because it's
I'll
a
read it.
trap.
I know the
Well, actually,
legislation, but I'm not
Ranking
gonna be
Member
part
Moore,
of your little,
Ranking Member
show
Moore.
here, so you can read it.
It was a question if you would read it, so I'll ask
And I
Ranking
said
Member
no.
Moore to read the text. This is in their bill.
This is
They
so-
don't want to read a line from their own bill. Ranking Member.
I don't want to read the bill for you.
I'll help you out.
Oh, snap, girlfriend.
Testifying about this legislation, I'm not going to read the bill to you.
He is
Okay,
offended.
I am,
Miss
this is amazing.
Miss
You
Lager
are
Fernandez,
on-
shall I pass this back or shall I
No,
read
no,
it for
why don't you just read it?
I am a member of this committee. I am the
Line 20.
ranking vice chair of the committee.
Ooh.
It says section
Black baby.
111106, repeal of excise tax on indoor tanning services.
Oh,
So they're repealing an excise tax on tanning beds.
and?
They're repealing a tax on silencers.
Yeah.
At the same, so they're gonna, okay, so
That's
if
not
you
even
have a
good enough.
tanning bed, you get a little bit of a tax break. And if you need a hospital bed in rural America, I'm sorry, you're out of luck.
Oh, good
Right?
one.
And I don't know where this particular provision came from. We do know that there are certain elected officials who appear to have a certain orange hue about them. That maybe they want to make sure that tanning beds get a little bit of special credit. But really, we are prioritizing
I mean, even I made
tanning
fun of that
beds
one, to be candid.
over hospital beds in rural America. So,
Got him.
you know, I do want to talk a little bit about the tax credit, the child tax credit.
Oh, she did it wrong. She should have
Because
closed
one
with
of the
that.
things that is sad about the child tax credit, I agree that it should have gone on for longer.
Tig says
We
this is
fought.
so
Melissa
nauseating.
DeMoro has been
Totally true.
fighting for that expanded child tax credit for almost her entire time here. She is joined by so
Oh,
many
why
of
did she
us
brush her teeth with a
on the
hammer?
Democratic caucus. I think all of them. Now, sadly,
Oh,
it
you
didn't get
guys are
extended,
hilarious.
but it didn't get extended because we could not get the Republican votes to extend it in the way it was. And right
Timu
now,
Alice Cooper.
what they have in this bill would actually deny the full
Oh,
value
God.
of the child tax credit to 17 million children because their families don't make enough money to qualify for it. Now, I don't know if the chair wants to answer any more questions, but.
Just got some stuff come
maybe
through.
I'll just
Hold
ask
on.
Ranking Member Moore, is that what's gonna happen with the child tax credit? Is the families who need it the most won't get it? Well, does the child tax rate extend to all?
Getting some stuff right now. I'll get some
So what
updates
this
for you in a second.
legislation does, of the 17 million children that you're talking about, they're going to make sure that their refundability is $1,700. At the end of this year, it drops to $1,000. So we're making sure that they are staying whole of where they are currently. If this bill does not pass, those 17 million children will only have $1,000 child tax credit instead of a $1,700.
But there is a discrepancy. Representative Moore.
Thank you so much. And
I can't. I gotta do a super chat. I'd sooner clean my rear with $200 than pay the government to use a constitutional right. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. A fine statement. All right. She's too much. I can't right now. Guys, we're getting real close. I just got some information come through. Asked a clarifying question. Looks like we're going to get the stuff we're chasing this week. Of course, that indicates that it may or may not be today. I don't know. I'm clarifying. Turn the music on for you.
And talking about work requirements again, but as people have pointed out, about 97% of people who are under the age of 65 and that receive any of these benefits they work. And if they're not working, they've worked the year before, they received any of these benefits. They worked a year after they've gotten it. And the 6 or 7% of people who don't work, as Mr. McDermott has pointed out, they have Mr. McGovern, have very complicated lives. They're taking care of elders, they're taking care of children. So if a woman finds herself in a situation, for example, where she, for whatever reason, cannot work, there are 17 million children who will get zero. And these are the poorest kids that there are. And they need support. It's, a child supplement is supposed to recognize that child rearing is expensive.
Rearing?
The kids don't earn money particularly, but they need their Cub Scout uniform.
Jason, thank you.
They have sports equipment. They can't participate. I can remember growing up when I couldn't go on a field trip because I didn't have $5.
You guys
for
got
the
me.
bus fare. And
I
we're
pulled the
gonna
all-nighter. I'm
leave
having
them
trouble not
out.
laughing.
And, because of this work requirement, the poorest children, 17
I've got bubbles on my
million
text
of them,
messages.
who have no control over whether or not employers will provide their parents with work, parents who perhaps don't have a high school diploma. I know people who wouldn't hire people because all their teeth were rotten. And that wasn't a good look for working in the restaurant. And these are children, the most needy will not receive any money whatsoever. And you have to earn at least $2,500, is that right, Mr. Chairman? To get the lowest amount of the tax credit. So someone,
Dollar
the
General
mayor of
Whoopi
Milwaukee,
Goldberg.
he's got 3 beautiful children, he'll get the maximum tax credit, and the kids who live down the street will get nothing.
It's that disparity. There are so many bad things in this bill that we really need another 3 or 4 days. The
No, we
Inflation
don't.
Reduction Act, what they are doing
Not to talk to
clean
you.
energy, what they are doing in so many different areas, condemning the United States to be so far behind, condemning us to be, second to China.
I'm getting bits
I mean,
and
you are
pieces
going
of
into so many
information. Just
different
bear with
ways.
me.
But, I think that we will just continue to talk about these other things because it's really important. But with that, I want to yield just a really quick few seconds to my colleague.
Yes.
No, oh, not this woman again.
Sent on an article, my colleague mentioned the issues with respect to rural hospitals. But there's a Philadelphia Inquirer article from May 19th entitled Pennsylvania Hospitals Like Chester with a lot of Medicaid patients keep closing. Budget cuts would speed up that trend. And it discusses how half of our
Super Chat speaks. All right. I don't think that anyone in Congress would be willing to remove machine guns from NFA if our bills pass. However, we could push for the Brady ban being overturned and the new MGs on the registry. Can we argue for common use if there's more MGs? Yeah, I mean, like, by principle, you could. Okay, so now we just... Oh, did we move away from that woman? That'd be so great if we move away from that woman. So basically... What was I about to say? Oh, yes, if there's a bunch... I mean, but the number is pretty high. Like, for example, they try to say that... ARs aren't common use, and there's 24 million. There's more ARs in the United States than there are Ford F-150s, and they say that's not common use. So, I mean, like, to put that in perspective, it would have to be a lot of machine guns. So, just to give you an idea. I've got some more things. I'm going to turn this
The
up.
education program count toward
This
those
woman hates her life for being there.
If you're working towards a GED program, that would count towards your work requirement.
So if you want to go through, I'll yield time to you to cover
Thanks a
the
lot.
many accusations.
Thanks a lot, and I come from a product of hard work too. My whole life growing up, my
God, the hard
childhood up
work
through
crap.
high school, my dad worked in a Ford foundry. It's pretty hard in Alabama, so that's pretty hard work when you're in the heat of the summer. So I come from that as well. And if you look at, they talked about the coverage laws. I always say, look at ineligible, illegal, and able. So if you look at the coverage laws that comes from the Medicaid requirement, it's people that aren't eligible to participate in the Medicaid program by the rules set up by people who voted for the Medicaid program. The other are the people that are not here in a legal presence. And the other is the able-bodied. And when we talk about able-bodied, well, one, I know that we talked about the maternal health program. That was actually bipartisan. I think Doc Burgess was really engaged in doing that. It was extended for a year. And that, if it's anywhere in the bill, I want somebody to point that out because it's absolutely... It's not in the bill that's affected. But the work requirement does not apply to you. If you're a pregnant woman, if you're under 19 or over the age of 64, if you're a
All right, super chat from Jonathan Browning. Thank you very much, sir.
disabled individual or have a dependent child. Veterans with a disability rated as total. Individuals who are medically frail, which includes but is not limited to people with the following conditions: blind, disabled, substance use disorder, disabling mental disorder, physical intellectual developmental disability, serious or complex medical condition, or other conditions identified by the state or approved by the secretary, or you're for compliance with TANF or SNAP, which SNAP's had them, we'd argue, since the 1970s. So we
Super
think
chat
we can
from
do
Jason.
this.
Thank
People
you.
who
Just
brought up
because.
Georgia and Arkansas, those were problems. People were working and could not get Medicaid. And that is absolutely not what we want. That's why we took great pains to make sure we simplify the reporting requirements. People have due process rights. We want people to have Medicaid, but if they're not working and able to work, but we don't want to use the work requirement to deprive people of Medicaid. So we feel that is there. The other number, because they throw up 13 million, there's like over 5 million, but that comes from an expired.
Just so you guys know what I'm doing, just you can read the subtitles. I'm communicating with a few different people who are out there. There's some movement going on. I'm going to brief you on it shortly. I don't know all the pieces here and what this actually, the ramifications of what I'm being told right now. That's why I'm clarifying. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to be a bad host. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening right now.
$27 million on the Green Energy Fund when you could have made this last longer. And then my friend from Massachusetts talked about, well, this is for the well-connected. We had a hearing yesterday where there's a nonprofit that was started by a well-connected individual, had $100 in the checking account of the non-progressive forward, and got a $2 billion grant, which the CEO's salary of that is over $800,000. So she's getting paid 5 times a member of Congress to implement a grant appropriated by Congress. And if that's not well connected and run, that's money that could have been spent for these. And with
all right, super chat. Repeal the Hughes Amendment. Write future federal contracts to require civilian sales as a condition of entering any bid to supply automatics to feds. It's an interesting approach. Another super chat. Just here to watch a vote on my freedom mufflers. This has been a long hearing. Ash, yeah, it has, since 1 a.m. Eastern time. Absolutely. Right now, guys, just so you know what we're doing and where we're kind of at. Sorry, let me jump real quick. Sorry.
That's probably what they're writing about, because there were people saying that those should not stay where they are. And we sat down with hospitals, we all did, we looked, and we said, yeah, this really ups the reimbursement for hospitals that have high Medicaid so they can stay open. So we held harmless that provision. Now going forward, there's reform in it, but it held harmless. States said that they had difficult times with their budgets, and the provider taxes helped them get through.
All right, so let me catch you up on a few of the things that are kind of happening right now. It's been a long hearing. It absolutely has been a long hearing. Thank you for that super chat. Super chat from Nick. Thank you for all your hard work on this. Just sitting through this committee meeting alone is worse than death. You are very appreciated. You know what? I appreciate that, and you get a little heart. I appreciate for that statement because it's been a rough one. Okay, so now let me tell you the synopsis of what I'm hearing, because I'm kind of hearing two things that are loosely related right this second. All right. So we are obviously in the hearing of the Rules Committee. What I'm being told on one end is this could be something where negotiation is still ongoing and we'll absolutely know by Friday, which it could be a recess. I don't know. The other side is saying that they're basically now what's happening is the Republicans are buying time to get what they need to get done and reach that last second deal. That's where we're at right this second. So what I've been talking about for the last hour and 40 minutes is we are going towards this culmination point and decision point. We either go down the amendment road and we start voting this thing out of this hearing, or we do a recess, at which time they'll work on the deal some more, and then they'll come back for another recess hearing and blah, 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 blah. We'll get the information we need and we'll share it with you. That's why notification bells on subscriptions are so important, and likes, all the stuff. We will keep you updated as fast as possible. But that's why this is so important, because we're in sausage making, and these things go live, they turn on on a dime. So that's where we're at, and that's what I'm getting from two different sources. One scenario, we've either got a recess coming in a second, and this is a stall tactic to defend himself, which could totally be what's happening, or we've got a final deal that's going to come at a later date, and then we'll do a recess. It's one of those two things. We're going to find out probably from the chairwoman when she gets a chance to talk again, because this guy's, I really think they said, hey, do you want to defend yourself? Wink and nod and buy some time. That's what it looks like. Thank you for taking time out of your day to keep us informed, updated, and entertained. We, the people, salute you. Thank you, Johnny 3-Bar. Can you confirm Shush Act got put in? All right, Christopher Bass, let me show you what we know on that. Well, I don't need to have that guy talking right this second. So, where we're at on the Shush Act, if you guys are just now tuning in, the Shush Act has been offered as an amendment, number 487, to this entire reconciliation bill in the Rules Committee. The amendments have not been voted on or even brought up, nothing. So what we're dealing with right this second is effectively a long list of 503 amendments that they have to go through. Now we're waiting on some stuff, some further amendments, which will make or break this entire thing, which will also play out, and you'll quickly see the way it all falls together. We're waiting on those things. That is why we've been looking at this right here for so long, is because we're waiting for that moment to determine what's going to happen. Because if it goes the way of execution, which would be starting new amendments, we would be rolling down the right path because they'd have what they need. If we see a recess here in a second from the chairwoman, we won't have it yet. That's literally where we boiled this down to. So they originally had expected this to be done by 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's now 10 a.m. Eastern time, and they haven't even started the amendments because the Democrats are openly filibustering, and now the chairwoman has given him a chance on the Republican side to defend himself, and he's being very long-winded. So that's kind of where we're at. Super chat from Ginger. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you guys.
The hospitals from my state, talking to them about what we were doing in this
I
bill.
think she's
really
stalling
appreciate the
too,
time that you
and she's
took
the
there with
Republican.
them and with many other members, any member who had hospitals with questions, you took time to visit with, and we're grateful for that.
We're definitely in a moment
I just
right
want to
now. make
make a few exclamation points on some of the things that you said.
Yep.
Medicaid alone is on pace to outpace defense spending. Medicaid alone is on pace to outpace defense spending. That's
It's going up from 700 billion out of 1.1 trillion under this bill.
That is not sustainable. And Mr. Chairman, what happens to the Medicaid population when we can no longer afford that level of spending?
Well, it's the fear when the interest on the debt just gets so big it overcomes it all. And
So what's happening right now
I
is
said
stalling.
the hospitals, a lot
And
of
this is-
hospital CEOs.
this is Republicans stalling right now. So what I think one of my contacts is dead on the target. We're looking like it looks like this is a stalling tactic. Republicans are asking like, so what happens when corn gets ground down and you add milk, butter, and sugar? You get grits. Oh, and what are grits? Walk me through that. Right? They're going through all these silly rigmarole questions. So what happens if we can't pay back our debts? Well, I don't know. What do you think happens? That's what's happening right now.
Best,
very interesting
we
to watch all this
preventing
stuff.
The ineligible, the illegal, and the able from accessing benefits and taking dollars away from the very people who this program was designed to help. Pregnant women, children, the disabled, seniors.
Make tar and feather great again.
If we did nothing,
I love that.
would there be more or less money available to take care of the
They
traditional
are
population?
absolutely stalling.
Well, if you think about it, if you're a state program and you get 90 cents, in my state you get 72.90. So 90 cents for
Okay,
one patient.
hold on a second. We're going to have a conversation, Curtis. Grits are an abomination. Okay, guys, in the chat, you guys can tell me. We got 2,600 people chilling here waiting for this determination. Are grits an abomination or a gift from God on high? You guys let me know, yay or nay. We'll have our own little vote and show them how to do it efficiently. What do you guys think? Are they good or are they bad? Let me know in the comments right over there. Grits are mid, an abomination. Oh wow, we seen. Now you guys start putting comments in. That's what it took. Okay, I see y'all. Okay. Thanks, Curtis. Good. You know what? Split 50-50. You know what? We're gonna get official with this. Well, hold on a second.
Madam Chair, a lot's been said here today. I would like to offer the opportunity for Chairman Thompson from my neighboring district to offer, in similar fashion, anything that he would like to rebut based on what's been said here today.
Oh, I thank my neighbor to the north for yielding some time. I just want to start out by saying, contrary to the disparaging remarks we've endured today, based on fear, not facts, the goal is not to hurt those struggling in poverty. The goal is to fulfill the purpose that is in law of the nutrition title. And the nutrition title, as of the FRA,
There's an official poll.
by the way, any of those who voted for the FRA were the ones that approved those benefits that we talked about for the homeless, those aging out of foster care, and veterans. You that voted for that were the ones that voted to have those expire in 2030. There was a question.
Shrimp and grits is the holy ambrosia.
So, but within the FRA, we obviously food security has always been a part of the nutrition title. Really important, but it has a dual purpose. It is
Yes, Curtis,
officially
thank you.
codified and in law, and that is workworce development.
That got more comments than the whole hour and 40 minutes.
that purpose.
Thanks for
And I would
that.
say we also.
Keith, no, there has not been a preliminary vote yet.
My own personal perspective is we need to achieve sustainability of the.
All right, so this is absolutely what's happening. The Republicans are absolutely stalling. Now the chairwoman is back in here. I think they're stalling until she gets the nod, and then they're gonna be like, "Hey, by the way, we found it." I think that's what's gonna happen. Grits with butter, sugar, and cinnamon. See, grits equal this meeting. You guys are hilarious. Man, you guys are really emotional about these grits. This is why we can't get anything real done. You're absolutely correct. See, I can relate to this. Grits are a blessing from Southerners that only prepared by Southerners. Northern grits are terrible. Hey, whoa, hold on a second, Curtis. I call everything a Coke. What kind of Coke do you want? A Sprite? I do that. That's we've had dinners together, you know. Man, you guys are crazy. Grits D's. That's hilarious. Looks like 50-50. Okay, so you guys have voted. Let's see. It is not 50-50, people. I will tell you, 50% say grits are great, 25% say an abomination, and 26% say mid. I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm going to end that poll, though. 50%, there it is. There's the officials, Curtis. Read them and weep. Just saying. Oh, we're still droning on. Great. All right, let me turn that back on so I can...
the wrong way. It is the SNAP participants, those individuals, those families are the ones that are hurt most. So the reason for this reform, it's intended to intent to supplement the food budget for low-income individuals. That's what SNAP is. The SNAP has ballooned in cost. Since 2019, SNAP rolls have increased by 17%, from 36 million.
That lag guy, great question. So I'm new to this. What exactly are we stalling for? So we're stalling. Let me walk you through this real quick. We've done this a couple times, but it's important for all of us to understand what's going on. See this guy right here, Johnson? Yeah, he's talking to the chairwoman Fox. That's the woman who's running this committee. She's stalling because he doesn't have the deal yet. The Democrats have run their course. It's now Republicans, right? They have no reason to go down this road and talk. And the reason why is because right here, Speaker Mike Johnson wants to finalize this and get it going today. That's the reason they're stalling, because they think they can get a last-second deal. So while he drones on and Republicans are literally like, so tell me, when rain falls, what happens? That's what behind those doors, they're going, okay, seriously, what do you want? We need to get this thing rolling. I want a bridge named after me and at least 2 doors on the newest hospital. I want a wing. That's what's happening right now in the back. So, just so you guys know, all the horse trading and all the BS is happening right now. That is the deal.
Their SNAP EBT card. And
See,
that's obvious how that hurts those families.
Oh my
I will tell you that the overpayments, which
Dorky
are
Fam,
overpayments
excellent
and
song
underpayments
reference.
Based on the data, has even, I think, greater harm. If you're that single parent mom with 2 little babies and the card gets charged, you're going to use whatever's on that card.
Audio is cooked. Yeah, I'm hearing you guys. The audio went bad for a second.
Because that's the benefits you were given, and when you go, and by the way, SNAP benefit.
Has the audio recovered? It's showing good on my end.
An average of 2 to 3 forms of payment when they go. They're not using just SNAP. That's obviously supplemental to cash, to checks. Or,
Curtis, you can stir that pot, aren't you?
So how does the overpayment hurt them? Well, because the states will come back and claw that back. It may be 3, 4, 6 months later. Now, where is that single parent mom with 2 little babies supposed to find that money at that point? That's
Oh man, there's a fight over these grits.
It's so important. It protects, one of the things it does, it protects the beneficiary. It protects that single mom from...
Jordan Blake, we are so close. Come on, rock and roll America. We are so close, and we are literally waiting on these Republicans to decide if they're going to be awesome or they're going to be traditional Republicans who aren't awesome. I'll say it. I know Curtis will say it. Meanwhile, Curtis is just riling everybody up about grits. If this isn't America, what is? So I'm just going to watch this guy, fellow bald guy, sitting here talking about SNAP benefits and how cards work and plastic and what it means if you spend too much money and what it means if you don't spend enough money and who's going to eat what and how it works, i.e. the grits conversation. These are my hands. I'm wearing a bolo tie. Things of that nature.
And I happen to believe that looking over the past couple decades, every state can get their error rate down below to be at that 5% mark.
Not Skyline Chili.
Only 28% of able-bodied adults without dependents on SNAP have earned income from work. That's largely because of not because of the law that and the regulations that Congress passes and the executive branch writes, is because of how it's poorly administered by the states. The USDA and states have intentionally limited enforcement of the SNAP work requirement for adult without dependent children, able-bodied adults, through waivers, leaving 40% of these work-ready
Oh my
individuals
God.
today
This
under
went
a
from
waiver of the-
horrible
of the
to like
involved work
nails on a
requirements, and remain on
chalkboard.
SNAP rules long after
Holy
the 3-month
God.
deadline, for compliance with the work requirement. So because of the SNAP benefit, unlike other entitlement benefits, is 100%.
Monkey Snot says, you keep referring to the sausage being made. It's more like fertilizer. That is so valid. It's stupid. This is fertilizer right now. They are stalling, and that's why it's getting really dry, really boring. Which is important, because they might be stalling for a reason. We'll find out.
That is not paperwork that comes, I don't believe comes from the federal
What
government,
up, John?
because I know in the SNAP program, you know, it is.
My
the
fellow
states determine
up-all-nighter.
bureaucracy. And there are problems with states that will take months in order to process those applications under the nutrition title. That's unacceptable, and that's why we.
Good
need to hold
Lord
states accountable.
above.
And I don't believe that, no state out there is going to cut SNAP benefits. You heard about the passion for that assistance.
This
on
is-
both sides of the island here.
This is
And so
so-
I think you're being pretty much unrealistic and disrespectful.
Welcome to the party, John Crump.
State capitals to think that this program.
Where do you
is
stand,
really
grits or no
less
grits?
important to them.
Join the fight.
And we're talking 5%, that I believe that they can all get there. So with that, I thank the gentleman for yielding.
Mr. Langley, would you yield a moment?
Wait a minute.
I think, Mr. Thompson, you brought up a very significant word in your comment.
Oh, they are stalling.
And what we keep hearing on our side is we want integrity in these programs to save them. But integrity, and we're hearing that these are moral programs. Well, integrity is moral too. And we want integrity in the programs so that we can save them. And I think you just outlined that extremely well. And it's a word we have not heard enough of.
Man, if she brought them all there at 1 a.m. and they don't do anything, she's gonna be, they're gonna be so pissed.
Probably in the committees, because we keep hearing about cuts, when we're talking about having integrity in the program. So thank you, Mr.
If the gentleman in New York will yield just a few minutes.
Certainly.
You know, we did not roll back.
Oh, God.
The daily amounts that these recipients receive.
All right, I got 2 super chats. Politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed often for the same reason. Thanks for keeping this bad boy alive. Let's get it passed together. We can do this. I agree on both accounts.
$6 a day, something like that.
So-
That amount was not rolled back.
So that message that you just heard come through, same thing. They believe that this is a stalling tactic because they're grinding it out behind the doors. That's what it seems like.
And so I think those corrections are really important to make, and I thank the gentleman from New York for yielding.
And I yield back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Griffith, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Oh.
You know, fake news, misinformation, it has long existed in human societies. And today we heard several folks reference Marie Antoinette and let them eat cake.
I like this guy, actually. This
She
guy is
never
funny.
uttered those words. As historians will tell you, there's no evidence that she ever said it. I understand the intent in which it was used, but
Super chat. If this fails, they are not Republicans. We may end up politically homeless.
the rumor, I'm going to finish.
I agree.
The rumor,
Antoinette looked like she's down to earth.
no, not going there. But the rumor that she said those words started circulating in the streets of Paris a couple of weeks after her head had been severed by the guillotine.
Thank you for the
And
super
as
chat,
everybody
World War
knows,
II.
The brain only functions for 2 seconds. Scientific data done at the guillotine by a French scientist showed the brain only functions for 2 seconds. 2 blinks of the eye subsequent to the head being severed.
Getting weird fast.
This information is still out there, and sometimes it's both sides of the aisle that just, we start these stories or these rumors in the minds of people. And one of those that all of us have been guilty of is talking about work requirements related to this bill. Because it's actually community engagement. So if you're going to school, as we've heard some testimony today, if you're engaged in your community in any way, going to school, getting a drug treatment program, it counts. Volunteering in your community for that 18.47 hours a week counts, or 80 hours. It doesn't have to all be done in a week. 80 hours over the course.
Okay, shut up for a second. Super chat. My Social Security will run out before they vote. I mean this sincerely, Ash. My Social Security is going to run out before these guys vote. All right, so again, keep in mind, all the Republicans had to do was get through the Democrats. Now the Republicans are all of a sudden magically letting every single Republican opine on something they don't need to opine on. Literally, their objective is to get this through the committee. She can call a vote anytime she wants. They're stalling, and they're stalling on purpose, which is why we are waiting, because we will know exactly what we're going to do and where we're going once we determine what they know, what they're going to do. This is really key. Pretty much, it boils down to three things. One scenario. We basically say, oh, we're going to recess and come back later. In which case, we will recess and come back later. We don't know that yet. Second thing, hey, we're ready. We're going to vote on all the amendments now. In which case, we'll probably still come back later because there's 500 amendments. And then the third one is, we've got everything and it's about to be a party. I want that third one. But anyway, let's continue on because that is exactly what's happening right now.
And I would now ask the gentleman from Missouri if he would like
doing
to
dumb things now.
correct any things that are misunderstood that have been said today or that somehow otherwise need correction so the historical record will be complete.
I want to thank the gentleman from Virginia for
for
yielding, asking that question, and also for serving on a fairly decent committee. So
That wasn't that funny.
I
Pineapple Boy
appreciate
has not got
the
it
work
like that.
you all have been doing.
This is the Republican Ways and Means chairman.
This bill
Drop some
is a bill
testosterone.
for working Americans.
Just a little bit.
I'm a product of the working class. Like I said earlier,
Set yourself
I
up for
grew
jokes
up,
in my chat on
most
that
of my
one.
life in a single wide trailer, and then we upgraded to a double wide. My dad was one of those 199A employees that would benefit in this bill. He was the employee of one.
Got a couple super chats.
2-car.
Sorry, it can only take so much. It's been about 10 hours now. All right, super chat number 1. Cut their pay to $15 an hour until they get this done. I like that idea a lot. Super chat number 2. Dems are stalling to keep their freebies to buy votes with. It's all about staying in power to rule over the ashes. And reenacted, if you haven't made calls and sent emails to the reps supporting HPA in short, you're wrong. So please do that. And finally, my grandkids' Social Security will run out before they vote. And the last one, all super chats, all amazing. Thank you very much. I think the chicken turds will cower at the last second and dump everything. Dems 1, Republicans 0. We'll see. And for some reason, Curtis said meth. That's why. I don't know why. I can't read some of these. His testosterone definitely dropped. Another super chat. I know it sucks this is dragging on, but remember why we are trying to reverse 90 years of rights violations. Absolutely. I'm totally down with this. I'm just explaining why this is happening. But it does not help that this guy's voice is really grating on me.
For this country
Let's
to
hear it some
hear
more.
from real small business owners, real working moms, real farmers
Oh, it
of the
hurts.
issues that they're facing in today's economy. And that's what this bill delivers on. This bill makes permanent what is expiring at the end of this year. Every individual tax rate will be made permanent. The 10%
Thank
tax
you, no,
rate
Sam.
will be made permanent.
Don't like it.
Every single one. The child tax credit, which affects 40 million Americans, 40 million children. If Congress does not act by passing this legislation, you will see the child tax credit go from $2,000 to $1,000.
Thank you, Soup.
To $1,000. That affects working families. The guaranteed deduction, which 91% of Americans use when they file their taxes, that gets slashed in half if we don't pass this bill.
If you guys
And
aren't
guess
reading
what?
the
This
chat,
bill
you need to.
also increases that guaranteed deduction.
This is amazing.
$1,000 per individual. That's real tax relief for the 91% of Americans that use it to file their taxes. We also enhanced the child tax credit, $500, to make the child tax credit $2,500. Inflation's gone up a lot since 2017, and we're indexing it for inflation. We're also delivering on the promise that
Like 90% of the comments that you guys are saying right now, I cannot say out loud on the stream. So enjoy that quiet text.
tax relief for seniors. Also, allowing you to be able to deduct your interest from autos made in the United States. I'll tell you, the senior citizen who's an Uber driver is going to benefit the most from this tax package. Because no tax on tips, senior tax relief.
He needs to
and
never say the word
also
tips
they
again.
can deduct their interest if that car is made in the United States. These are real impacts for real Americans. In fact, an average family of 4 under this tax bill will see their tax cuts of $1,300. $1,300. Where I come from, $1,300 is a lot of money in the paychecks of working families who are struggling just to get by. In this tax bill, what it does for small businesses. What it does for small businesses. There's 26 million small businesses right now that are wondering, is their tax rate going to be 43.4% next year or 23 to 28%? And these are those mom and pops on Main Street.
Mom and
That are
pops?
just surviving. That's my parents' auto repair shop in Southeast Missouri. They're deciding of how to invest, how to grow right now with the uncertainty, and this bill will provide that certainty. In fact, we also enhance the small business deduction to 23%, allowing them to have more parity with the big corporations with having a lower tax rate as a small business owner. We also go after special interest tax provisions that were passed in the IRA. We eliminate more than $500 billion of bad green scam policies.
This is literally stalling.
And those policies will be redirected for the working class Americans, those tipped employees, those linemen working overtime, those seniors who are living paycheck to paycheck. That's what we're going to do with those green credits.
I think I got a couple super chats.
We're also going to hold elite universities accountable.
Yes, I wish I could, but I can't read that
They
one.
pay their share of revenues coming from endowments.
Needs to drop anything with an S in it. All right, these drama queens would do great with a job in Hollywood. That's how they gain their votes. Fear, anger, and drama. That is very good assessment. Back to the comments. Oh my God. More of it.
We're always talking about paying their fair share. But we're going to make sure those elite universities pay their fair share. It's the same way with
No,
woke
I am not reading an atrocity.
non-for-profits.
Standing rule.
We're holding them accountable. We're also saving $140 billion in the tax code to make sure illegals aren't benefiting from the tax code.
Anybody else wondering
And
why
this is all to deliver
the Ways and Means
real
fell
relief
apart?
for the average, everyday American who sent us to Washington for this mandate. I appreciate you for allowing us to be here today.
Please,
Madam
no
Chair,
more.
I yield back.
Please, no
Thank
more.
you. Mr. Jack, you're recognized.
Mother.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will
Father.
Engage Mr. Wahlberg. I appreciate your patience throughout this hearing. I can relate that it's a little lonely when you sit at the edge of the table, but would welcome any closing thoughts and comments from you and the incredible work that your committee members produced at the Education and Workforce Committee.
I want to bang my head into this table.
Mr. Jack, I appreciate that. Bobby and I are feeling like Rodney Dangerfield down here at the end of. You know, I served on the Ag Committee, my first term in office. Great committee. Got a great ag district that I represent. I served on Energy and Commerce up until I took the chairmanship of this fabulous committee. And I never wanted to serve on Ways and Means. It's not up to my standards yet. Now, I love you, Jason. I love you. I just had to get that in. But I do appreciate.
So now we're just we're literally, excuse me, I'm going to say it. We're just jerking each other off now. Can we please just get done with this? Like, we got rights to reclaim. Ain't got no time for this crap. Anyway. Oh, it's fabulous, all right. It might be fabulous. Yeah, right now we almost got in trouble. We are clearly going into just the whatever. We're burning so much time right now. I hope they're getting something good while they're doing this.
Encouraged. I don't think we've been encouraging education as we ought to, and
oh yeah,
for that reason, my ranking member Scott and I, and
no, Sam, this is exactly why nothing gets
question,
done.
which was a legitimate question. We started 10:15 in the morning on our markup.
Call for
5
the damn
and a half
vote
hours
already.
later,
That's
after
right.
33 or 34 amendments that we debated together, we completed it. And I turned to Bobby and I said,
Mac D, you
Bobby,
figured that out,
what
huh?
happened? He said, what do you mean? I said, it's still light out. I think that shows how a committee can work together to get things done, whether we agree or not.
Eamon asked a good question. If they call for a recess, when do they meet up again to vote? It's whenever the chairman decides. There is no way for us to know.
Right now, 40% of master's degree programs and a quarter of bachelor's degree programs leave students worse off than if they'd never started in higher education.
So if you were having audio videos or audio issues, what's happening, the stream is solid, and basically it's happened throughout the stream as we got through in about the 2-hour mark. The audio is going in and out, just refresh it and it'll fix.
That they're going to lose over the next 10 years.
Garrett
Taxpayers
says, what a
lose
pool of
20 cents
self-righteous
from every dollar
narcissism.
that they lend to post-secondary education
Yep.
right now. That's not a winning formula. So in our legislation, Mr. Jack, we attempted to reduce from 5 disparate loan programs.
Suck my suppressor. That's good.
Some most without any limit on them, down to 2. And we put reasonable caps in.
Wish, I saw you said that a second ago. Where are we with the Short Act? We are still waiting on that. So there's some things that we're waiting on, which that's what they're stalling for right now. They're deciding if they're going to make the deal or not make the deal. That's what's happening right now. So effectively, the 10 hours of online we've been pushing comes down to this. Sorry about the rain.
Counsel their students on the basis of what their program will afford to them once they graduate, what they should take as a loan and no more. For that reason, we have a chance to give them skin in the game. Their students come out at the end of the pipeline and they are paying off their student loan, keeping on track to do that.
WVU says, is the chairwoman able to keep them on track and relevant? She doesn't care what they talk about right now. She is burning the clock. This is the equivalent of taking a knee when you have 2 downs left. That's exactly what this is.
What they ought to achieve. And then we give them a portion of risk sharing.
Brian, who's deciding on whether to introduce the bills? So I personally believe that behind the scenes, you've got Speaker Johnson working with people, having conversations, and they're working on the very key piece of information that we're waiting on. If that comes out, it's off to the races. If it does not come out, then we're going to recess, and we'll probably get a notification in like 3 hours where they're like, no, we're serious this time.
Education programs, apprenticeship programs, short-term degrees that we can use Workforce Pell for, to bring them out of that pipeline with a skill, with a
That guy's
job,
definitely on
and
puberty
without
blockers.
huge student loan debt. And Bobby and I are going to continue to work on other workforce programs to ramp up that deal, but we did get that into this bill.
Coworker told me they passed no tax on tips separate. Is that true? That came out of the Senate. It has to come out of the House first.
Savings is all being put in to make it more accessible for students to come out of the end of the pipeline. We don't agree on all of that. I get that. But that's the approach, and I think in the end, we're going to see a better higher education system.
I wonder if the gentleman might give the ranking member a chance to.
Well, he already had a chance to address one of your concerns, but yeah.
For him. I just heard a lot of references.
Yeah, let's just, hey, you know what? Get over here. There's some room left on the biscuit.
Respectfully, Mr. Nagoose, I reclaim my time, and I appreciate your comments, Chairman Wahlberg, and obviously appreciated your testimony throughout this hearing, Mr. Scott. And with that, I yield back to our chairwoman, Ms. Fox.
Madam Chair?
Did they get the
Can I-
text?
can I
Did they get it?
Thank Rules Republicans for all those profound last questions.
Shut up.
You just did.
Just did.
Oh, snap!
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Excuse me,
I'd
Mr.
like
Scott.
to thank you and the gentleman from Colorado for your kind words about Jerry Conley as the Dean of the Virginia delegation. Several people said very nice things, and I'd like to thank you for those.
Yeah, we are literally in
I want to
the.
say, I think it's important.
I got nothing left.
We always acknowledge each other because we all work hard.
It's given you have to pass
And
the
it's
bill to see what's in the bill vibes.
that we do.
A little. I'm
No
gonna,
matter
yeah,
the
a little. Could you like, could you say if you got it or not? Can we? Wait. You got to declare recess if it's over. All these people standing up. All right, we're about to find out, guys. No more of that. We're about to find out right meow. My source goes, people standing. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, I could see that. Oh, good Lord. Okay, hold on a second.
The next panel, thank you.
The next panel? New.
I have an important announcement to make
Here we go.
to the members in the room who've been waiting patiently to deliver amendment testimony. I have a brief announcement about how we're going to proceed. Those of you who've been excused can go.
Get out.
We're going
Oh, not the
We're going
hammer.
to begin with the leadership panel, but it will still be an amendment panel. Democrat leadership has asked to testify as a panel of 3 to begin with. But it's our understanding they will abide by the procedures of an amendment panel, meaning 5 minutes of testimony each. We will then move to calling up members to testify on amendments, 8 members at a time. We've been doing our best to monitor when members have arrived and are arriving. We're also doing our best to cross-reference our notes on this with the staff of our Democrat counterparts so we get it as right as possible. I'll be calling up the members 8 at a time. I've been patient this entire meeting and I ask for reciprocal patience here. If you just walked in, you may need to wait for a third panel. And for those listening who aren't here, you may need to wait for a fourth panel and so on. Again, I'm asking everyone to be patient. We'll be identifying the members for each panel verbally. I believe if you are on the Democrat side, and I think everyone who wants to offer an amendment is on the Democrat side, you may talk to the Democrat staff outside about where you might be in the queue.
All right, so for a second, real quick. Okay, this seems like they're starting the amendment process. We're very waffly right now.
Mr. Jeffries, I understand you want to address the group in terms of the loss of Mr. Connolly first, and then I'll identify.
All right, what the hell is going on now?
Madam Chair, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the moment of silence and the kind words of
Oh,
remembrance
Pelosi's
on behalf of our
here.
dear colleague, Jerry Conley, who
Now we're
who
getting
was
somewhere.
A members member, someone who conducted himself with the highest degree of intellect, brilliance, resilience, integrity, humor, and wit. It's a great loss for his family, great loss for his district, great loss for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Great loss for us as House Democrats, but certainly a great loss for the Congress and for the country, given just the depth of his representation, the relationships that he had on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol, and the fierce representation that he provided.
Not yet, Stephen.
To the people that he's been privileged to represent for decades. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some brief words of reflection on behalf of the House Democratic Caucus.
Well, I'm reminded of an old poem, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I went with more of a Metallica song, but
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries.
all right.
Now, I'd like to recognize that we have Minority Leader Jeffries,
Okay, hold on a second.
Leader Clark, and part of the leadership, Mr. Aguilar, at the witness table for our first panel. So I now will recognize each of you. Will you be going first, Mr. Jeffries?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Thank you, Chairwoman Fox and Ranking Member McGovern, for the opportunity to testify at this incredibly important Rules Committee meeting. I also thank my colleagues, Whip Catherine Clark and Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, for partnering with me on this amendment. Come before you today with an amendment to strike the unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American cuts to the health care and food assistance of the American people. America is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We are better than this. The great American middle class dream is that when you work hard and play by the rules, you should have the ability to provide a comfortable life for yourself and for your family, a good paying job, educate your children, purchase a home, and have access to high quality and affordable health care, as well as be able to put food on your kitchen or dining room table. Unfortunately, we are here today discussing a bill that would make that American dream harder to reach for millions by increasing costs for families, hardworking American families, and gutting the things that they need to survive and thrive. This reckless budget would take health care and food assistance away from millions of people in order to provide tax cuts to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. It would hurt children, hurt seniors, hurt families, hurt women, hurt people with disabilities, and hurt our nation's veterans. If enacted, the GOP tax scam would represent the largest cut to health care in American history and the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history in order to provide the largest tax breaks to billionaires like Elon Musk in American history. So let's begin with the health care component of this amendment. Everyone should have access to high quality and affordable health care in the United States of America. In 1965, Congress created both Medicare and Medicaid. In the intervening decades, Congress passed legislation to expand and strengthen these important programs. In 2010, this Congress, under the leadership of Speaker Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi, passed the historic Affordable Care Act, which created new protections for people with pre-existing conditions and expanded health care for tens of millions of people who couldn't otherwise afford it. Since then, we have managed to achieve the lowest uninsured rate in history. Why would we go backward? Which is what the GOP tax scam would do. We know, however, that our healthcare system is not perfect. Too many Americans continue to be unable to pay their medical bills.
Yeah, it was time to mute. You're absolutely correct. Okay, so what my sources are telling me right now is, guys, we are sitting in a position where we don't have what we thought we were going to have at this point, but it looks like they're continuing with the amendment points. So now what's going to happen, and this is the part that's going to be a little bit asinine, and I need your take on this. The frog is like invading my office right now. Anyway, so where we are at right now, hold on, I'm gonna come in. Okay, So that's kind of what I was thinking. So you guys can tell me what you think when I deliver this. So what's going to happen now is they're going to come in Democrat tranches of 8. God bless, man. That frog. Can you guys hear that frog? That frog is like speaking through a bullfrog. Whatever, that thing. Megaphone. Basically what's happening is they're moving into the amendment process. They're going to have all of the leadership talk. They're going to have 5 minutes. Then they're going to take a vote on it. Then there's going to have 8 more Democrats. And then it's going to keep on going until they burn more time down. We don't have the thing. We don't have the piece of information that we were looking for. So I'll leave this up to you guys. Do you guys want me to stay in here so we can monitor this in real time? Because I absolutely will. Or do you want to let this run its course and let me update you when something pops? Because right now it looks like they don't have the stuff that we need, and we can't get the answers that we need until we have that stuff. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we will definitely dive into that. Go to the pier, then update when done. I will be going to take a nap and then updating when done. Let it run, stay here. Stay. Get some rest, let it run, update. Okay, see, you guys are about 50-50. Won't hurt, let it run its course. It's fine. Stay, sleep, let it run a poll. I'll run a poll. That's a good idea.
For the Republicans who believe we should not rip food away from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, we ask you to support this amendment. And for the Republicans who believe that the gospel in Matthew
don't quote biblical
25 and 35 teaches us to stand up for the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the least, the lost, and the left behind, we ask you to support this amendment and strike these harmful cuts to health care and nutritional assistance. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the ranking member McGovern, members of this committee. I'm a proud co-sponsor, eager to.
Her mic's off. That's kind of nice, actually. Well, actually, the volume is all the way up right now. Her mic's just off.
Our deficit.
I mean, she is a member of Congress.
Triple threat to the American people, but unfortunately, it doesn't end there. I'm offering an additional amendment that strikes a provision that would defund Planned Parenthood. Speaker Johnson recently said about this
We've got to kill the babies.
It is about going after, quote, big abortion. But he knows better than that. We all know the federal government doesn't pay for abortion care. We all know Republicans have already decimated access to safe abortions in this country. So what does this provision actually do? It further defunds women's health care. It defunds cancer screenings, prenatal care, postpartum services, fertility treatments, preventative care. 96% of Planned Parenthood's clinical work has nothing to do with abortion, but everything to do with serving millions of women.
Sleep on
Most
camera.
of them, overwhelmingly, in rural and underserved areas, who are having a hard time finding reproductive care or any health care, especially in states with abortion bans. Faced with the choice of either breaking the law or breaking their oath to put patients first, OBGYNs are packing up and leaving. As a result, 35% of counties in America don't have a single obstetrician. In Georgia, it's 42%. In Texas, it's 50%. Clinics are shutting down while maternal mortality is on the rise. Infant mortality is up for the first time in decades. How does this bill respond to this Republican manufactured crisis? It piles on. It makes it even harder for women to find health care.
Oh, she's
Without
so
this
annoying.
amendment, it would shut down nearly 600 health centers run by Planned Parenthood, 64% of which serve women living in medical deserts. These are communities
Medical
that don't have enough
deserts.
health care
Maybe I'll watch
providers
this just
as
for
it
the
is.
stupid factor.
These are women who overwhelmingly live in rural areas. These are women that you represent. If Planned Parenthood is defunded, 7,500 South Carolinians will lose their doctor. All of them, 100%, live in a medical desert. 9,200 Georgians are on the edge of that same cliff. 75% in medical deserts. 22,000
Medical deserts.
Hoosiers,
The worst.
82% medical deserts.
Deserts again.
24,000 Virginians, 50%. 37,000 North Carolinians, 67%. 51,000 Minnesotans, 69%. And 118,000 Texans. Count on Planned Parenthood in a state where babies and pregnant women are dying at a historic rate. 2/3 of Texans live in medical deserts, and 141,000 New Yorkers are about to see 47 clinics boarded up, 61% of them in the neediest areas in New York State. Millions of women are counting on their representatives to make the right decision. Women like Cheryl from North Carolina, who years ago was overdue for a pap smear, but she didn't have insurance and she kept putting it off. A friend mentioned Planned Parenthood would provide this free of charge. She booked an appointment, got checked, and it came back abnormal. They caught it early and the cancer was removed. Cheryl credits Planned Parenthood with saving her life. A lot of stories begin like Cheryl's. They should all end in the same way, with health care that saves lives. I hope this amendment gives you all pause. When the women in this country deserve health care. And I hope you will think about the moms struggling to get by and stay healthy for the sake of their children and their families. It is not too late. Do right by them. Make this amendment in order for floor consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
See, the funny part is they all know it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member McGovern, distinguished colleagues on the committee.
Oh, this guy's such a
appreciate your
toolbox.
kind words about our colleague, Mr. Connolly, as
I
well.
might not make it
Madam
past the
Chair.
leaders, I'll be
I'm
honest.
grateful for the opportunity to introduce amendments that would strengthen SNAP, a program that helps families across the country meet their basic needs. I'm also proud to co-sponsor Leader Jeffrey's amendment. State governments can't afford to take on the extra costs that this legislation would impose on them. It would force leaders in red states and blue states to either raise taxes or remove people from SNAP, leaving even more Americans hungrier and poorer. I wish more Americans had the opportunity to hear from our prior panel's testimony during the workday, but this committee made the choice to hide from the public and keep hidden what's actually in this bill. In fact, we're still told that managers' amendments are still being negotiated and are incomplete.
Right
It
there.
is outrageous that this committee is debating these policies under the cover of darkness, but it shouldn't be surprising. Legislation you intend to pass, started at some ungodly hour, kicks millions of Americans off their health insurance and takes away food assistance for families who need it most. As grocery prices rise, I cannot understand why my Republican colleagues want to take food out of the mouths of mothers, children, and veterans while making health care even more expensive. House Democrats are eager to take on waste, fraud, and abuse throughout the federal government, but we cannot find a willing partner on the other side of the aisle because of our colleagues' single-minded focus on cutting health care for people who need it most. This legislation doesn't make Medicaid or SNAP more efficient or more fair, Madam Chair. All this bill does is ensure that billionaires who have never had to worry about a hospital bill or putting food on the table can continue to pay less in taxes than a teacher, a firefighter, or a nurse. Madam Chair, it is a fact that only House Democrats want to make healthcare more accessible and more affordable for everyone. We will continue to fight back against this effort to drive up costs of health insurance and end basic needs programs just to make a group of campaign donors happy. The contrast is clear. House Republicans are making healthcare more expensive and less accessible. House Democrats want to ensure that every American can earn the peace of mind of a good-paying job with great benefits. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar, would you mind leaving your testimony with me? Because I don't believe I heard a couple of things that you said, and I just want to look at it before I make any comments.
Of course.
Okay, I want to double check that I heard some things that I think you said.
Okay.
Before I make any comments.
Of course.
I'm going to recognize, before I speak, I'm going to recognize any of my colleagues. Ms. Houchin, Mr. Langworthy, Mr. Scott, you recognize.
Madam Chair, I would just like to ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an article entitled Rich State Poor People. And if I might,
without objection.
If I might just read from it, the oil and gas boom is helping New Mexico has become the nation's second biggest oil producing state. Taxes paid on the state's oil production would generate, and in quotations, more money than we know what to do with, according to Democrat State Senator and Legislative Finance Committee Chair George Munoz. States are flush with cash. Thank you.
Without objection. Mr. McGovern, you're recognized.
Yeah, first of all, let me just address something that Chairman Smith said. He went through all the things in the tax section of the reconciliation bill that, quite frankly, most of us support. I mean, the child tax credit, the no tax on tips, the middle class tax cuts. But what he omitted with tax cuts for billionaires, what he omitted were the cuts to Medicaid that will throw people off of health care or the...
All right, so let me address something that just came through in the chat because I just looked it up just now. It's saying that there's a fallback, like there's a stall with Chip Roy and a few others. Say there's still no's on it. Let me read the chat for you. Said bill just died. They're now saying a couple of weeks to pass and Senate won't pass it. Breaking now. I cannot confirm that that's the case. What I can tell you is Johnson has, as of 2 hours ago, is still saying that it's going to happen on Wednesday, and I can't really guarantee that. Basically, what the chat said is something I can't confirm. They're still working through the details. We don't have a manager's amendment, which is what they just said, and we're kind of inching around this whole thing with the holdouts on the Republican side. So that's where we're at with that. They're still talking about their thing.
Children who would otherwise be able to see a doctor when they're sick, but might not be able to, as a result of Medicaid being ripped away. Children.
Okay, they're just going down the emotional rabbit hole. So let me do this one more time. Reconciliation bill update. Just do that. Yeah, so the same thing as of 45 minutes ago. Nothing really crazy is happening. It's not like it's 100% done. I'm not seeing that anywhere. They're looking for consensus. Yeah, we covered that. 30 minutes ago. Some details, working on some other stuff. Johnson seems to soften on plans to vote today, and Chip Roy still a no. I mean, Johnson says he still expects to vote Wednesday on Trump bill. That's as of 2 hours ago. All right, so here's actually an update that you guys need to be aware of. Johnson said he expects the vote to be in the House on the Trump agenda bill today. He said when he's asked if he's planning to hold a vote, he said the manager's amendment, which is the main holdout here, the manager's amendment, which will outline the deals he struck with holdout factions, will be unveiled very soon, and he's working on some things. I don't know what that means. That just means he's working on some things. So, feels like we're kind of at one of these moments where it just kind of hits and hits and hits and stalls and stalls and stalls until it works.
And Mr. Aguirre, I support your amendment. You know, interestingly enough, the House Agriculture Committee never did a hearing on the cost sharing issue in states. And there's a reason why governors all over the country are panicking, that they may be hit with a bill of hundreds of millions of dollars, or even $1 billion in the case of Pennsylvania, which they're not going to be able to meet, and therefore it will result in them costing. It will end up cutting.
Here's what I think I'm going to do, guys. Yeah, we know Democrat Jerry Conley died. I think that they're further off than we are kind of expecting them to be. I'm thinking about killing the stream now in order to come back when it's a live thing, because I genuinely think that we're just going to see a circuit jerk.
Thank you so much for the question, and let's bust this myth once and for all, because we have two things going on here. We have the
I'm going to finish out this leadership. I want to hear what the chairwoman says, and then we'll kind of make
pregnant moms who are going to be have their health care taken away from them totally, and that impacts healthcare centers, FQHCs.
So let me finish this leadership portion here, and then we'll kind of determine what they say after that.
Payments, reimbursements for our FQHCs, and this is what's always pointed to by the right, as they will just pick up these services for women out of this defunded clinics for Planned Parenthood. It is impossible. At the same time that you are cutting Medicaid to these clinics, in Massachusetts alone, that'll be a almost $1.2 billion cut to these health centers, and saying if you're going to pick up what Planned Parenthood provides, you would have to increase the capacity of our FQHCs by 56%. So we're going to take away Medicaid over here, and then we're going to say magically increase capacity by 56% to serve the women who will no longer have a place to get the cancer screenings, the prenatal care, the fertility treatments, contraception, reproductive health care that they need, and that is increasingly
once we get done with the leadership, we'll assess more.
I regret that so much of what is done in this Congress and in this current administration around healthcare is so politically charged.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the SNAP issue, people are going to see their benefits cut. Again, on average of $2 a person, per meal. That's it. And if states can't meet their cost share, they have no choice but to cut the benefit. And no hearings on this, not one single hearing. And this is a major change, and not even the courtesy of a hearing. We weren't able to bring in governors or anybody from any states to be able to comment on what the impact of this would be, or whether even all the states could meet, their financial obligation. And I get, that it's part of a reconciliation bill, and that nobody even cares enough to do a hearing on it. Is that the way you legislate around here? I don't know if you want to add anything before I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. I think that's incredibly important, and I just share that the cost share discussion really breaks a promise of 50 years of a relationship between the federal government and the states. This is shifting more resources so they can be the bad guys.
Dude, I don't know if I could ever do this job. This is so much BS.
People off of eligibility. It's just an existential threat and would result in significant reductions in benefits to the people who need it most.
I'll just say finally, all this does is it gives my Republican friends some cover to be able to dodge responsibility, and when benefits get cut, say, hey, it's not me, it's the states. And again, that to me is very cynical. I yield back my time.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern, Ms. Fishbach.
Oh, God.
Ms. Scanlon, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think we just heard a little bit about myth busting. So, Leader Jeffries, I was wondering if you could address the myth which we have had thrown at us repeatedly throughout all the committee hearings on this bill, that somehow these proposals are going to be paid for by kicking undocumented immigrants off federally subsidized food and health care. Is that true? Are undocumented immigrants getting federal health care and federal food benefits?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Under current law, undocumented immigrants are already ineligible for Medicaid, the ACA exchanges, and for SNAP benefits. Not a single undocumented immigrant in this country gets a dime in federal taxpayer dollars for any part of comprehensive Medicaid coverage.
Okay.
Not one.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about nearly 14 million people who are going to be thrown off their health insurance, millions of others who are going to be jammed up by this aggressive cut to SNAP, the largest cut to food assistance in American history.
Yeah,
We're
Curtis, you
talking
love absolute
about
statements, don't you?
American children. We're talking about everyday Americans. We're talking about Americans with disabilities. And when it comes to nutritional assistance, we're talking about veterans who have served this country.
They're just burning
sacrificed, risked it all. And they're going to lose access to the food assistance they need to live a life of dignity and respect. Those are the facts. That's why we're fighting hard to stop this GOP tax scam that will hurt everyday Americans dead in its tracks.
I appreciate that because we've heard this gaslighting, for weeks now, and we knew it wasn't true, but I appreciate your clarifying that as well.
I think
And
we're
of
getting
course,
pretty close to
the extent that anyone was
wind
trying
down
to get
point.
in the system and get benefits to which they were not entitled, we have inspectors general who were tasked with rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse, but unfortunately have been fired by this administration. So, don't preach about wanting to ferret out fraud, waste, and abuse when you're pulling the watchdogs whose job it was. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you.
We have to go to Nagoose again?
Thank you. Mr. Nagoose, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leader Jeffries, Whip Clark, and Chairman Aguilar for your leadership and for the amendments that you submitted before the committee today. As you all know, we started
I want to see
at
what
1
she's
a.m.,
working
so
on.
This hearing's been going now for about 10 hours.
Oh, 'cause it's 1
We've
a.m.
heard from many Republican chairmen. We have, of course, many members of our caucus who are here that we'll hear from. The only person and of course we have all the leadership of the House Democratic Caucus.
God, this
We're
guy's
so grateful,
such a
that each of you came forward to
jackass.
testify in this fashion. The one person we haven't heard from is the Speaker, who came here briefly earlier but was not willing, I guess, to testify in the way that you all have. Mr. Leader, I know you offered to debate the Speaker on the floor. I believe sent a letter to him about a month and a half ago on this particular reconciliation bill. And I wonder if you might expound a bit on why you think that is important for the American people to be able to hear that debate and that dialogue.
Well, I thank the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Colorado. And first of all, let me
For setting me up with the question I knew
thank
exactly
all of
you
the
were going to
members
ask.
Of the Rules Committee, certainly my colleagues on the Democratic side who have done a tremendous job on behalf of the American people, Jim McGovern, Mary Gay Scanlon, you, Joe Nagoose, and of course, Teresa Ledger Fernandez. Let me also thank the Chairwoman Fox from the great state of North Carolina by way of New York City. She may have left the Bronx, but the boogie down Bronx has never left her. So thank you for providing this opportunity for us to have this discussion. But one person is missing. Speaker Mike Johnson. Over a month ago, I asked our distinguished colleague from
Doug,
Louisiana,
I have
the
been
Speaker
watching
of the
this
House,
since 1 a.m. last night, to answer your
to
question.
debate any of us, but certainly myself, on the House floor about this very bill.
Yeah, Curtis,
He
you're right.
believes it's one big, beautiful bill. We believe it's one big, ugly bill. That's going to hurt the American people, hurt children, hurt families, hurt veterans, hurt seniors, cut health care, cut nutritional assistance, explode the debt by a minimum of $3.8 trillion. This is being done by people who claim to be the stewards of fiscal responsibility. $3.8 trillion, if not more. And so the offer still stands. I'd love to have the opportunity to debate Speaker Johnson anytime, any place, right here at the Rules Committee, or certainly on the floor of the House of Representatives. Not a duel, a debate of ideas.
I couldn't agree more, and I thank the leader, the whip, the chairman, and I yield back to balance my time.
Oh, that's all you had? Oh,
Thank
God.
you, Mr. Neguse. Ms. Leisure Fernandez.
Oh, she's so awful.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to each of you for coming and testifying.
Oh, we're almost done with the Leadership Council. We're almost done.
As you described, the impact that the abortion bans have had on states across this country, the lack of reproductive health care in states around this country, and then that this bill would then add to that difficulty. I am reminded, and I've been sharing lately, a story that I didn't used to talk about because it was so hard, about how when I was pregnant, I almost bled to death.
Ouch.
And I remember lying on that hospital surgery piece of metal. And they didn't put me to sleep because we were trying to save the baby. And they were screaming, we're gonna lose her, we're gonna lose her, we're gonna lose her. Those doctors could concentrate on saving my life. They did not have to worry about whether they were going to be criminally charged or whether they were going to have to shut down their practice because they were working on a complicated pregnancy. And now we know across the country,
Yeah, it is all emotion.
in rural areas especially, we are losing our OBGYN care. So I want you to talk a little bit more about what happens in those rural areas, what happens in those areas where doctors are fleeing, and how what they're doing in this bill by going after Planned Parenthood, does that make it worse?
Oh my
Thank
God.
you. Thank you for sharing that story. And it is the story of women across this country.
The circle jerk
Pregnancy
is so real.
often complicated and it needs interventions. And we want safe outcomes. The way we get that is good prenatal care and being able to find that within a 50-mile drive from your home. And with the abortion bans, that is becoming out of reach for so many people. And it compounds the cruelty in this bill that is already there in all that they are taking away from women and children and families, from their health care, from food programs, public schools, the list goes on, for this cynical exercise of giving tax cuts to people who are too wealthy to need them or maybe even notice them.
All right, bros, got some news. This is important. And moreover, I just don't want to listen to that woman anymore. So I've got some update really quickly. This is a follow-up update. The things that they were working on that they had last night fell apart a little bit on the Republican side. This is all Republican side. Says, quote, follow up on this, says he doesn't think they'll have a deal today or even this week, maybe 10 days. If that's true, we're in a bit of an issue. Not a horrible one, not a great one. So what I'm going to do now is that's the second source that I've had that has said the thing fell apart and we're kind of waiting on something that's not going to get here. I'm going to kill this stream. I'm going to go and talk to them some more, get some background stuff, because that's the second source now that says it's not going to happen right now. and I will keep you guys updated. If something changes, you'll be the first one to know. But I was waiting on that secondary source, and that kind of confirms with what we're saying. So if something changes, I will absolutely notify you guys. I will keep my ear to the ground on this as much as I can. Thank you so much for spending time doing this. And for those of you on the X profile with me from 1 a.m. last night, you're champions, each and every one of you, and thank all of you for tuning in. But right now, it's time to regroup and figure out what's going on. I will get some sources, and I'll come right back to you. Curtis, if you're still watching, it is your turn. Let's go. See you on the next one, guys. Where's the button? There's the button.